I'm here. I live. Just hold on. Don't know if you heard the little meow. Where is my mouse? Hello, everybody. Welcome. Let's see. We have Magistrate Ironlong, Mothless, Lunabear, Song, Boople, and Ghoulish Misfit. It is great to see you all. Mothless, are you a new person, or have I just not seen you in the chat yet? Are you Are you moth with the brackets around it? Hello, kitty. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, kitty. Yo, yeah, I picked a wacky font for the chat and I was setting it up because I was like, that's cool. That's like a little bit fantastical. I like it. Finally, says Mako. Finally, I have them all. All the whiskers. Yes. Hello, people. I hope that you got that on the camera. If you didn't, she is licking my nose. Sure, she was. I mean, but yes, a bit of a strange stream today. Yeah, no, don't step on those buttons. Don't step on those buttons. You can step on this part, but not the other part. Oh, I see. You kept saying I was live, but would only let me see the last stream. That's why you said finally. Gotcha. Finally, I'm in. I'm into the stream. Are you gonna boop the camera now? Oh, kitty, you are distracting. You are very distracting, kitty. But yes, as I keep starting to say and not finishing, today is an odd day, but hopefully will still be a fun day. So we had our usual writing group stream on Saturday, but some wackiness happened, which is that I have been going longer on the supporter stories, the longer even than usual. I always talk a lot, but I feel like it. I feel like I've been going even longer lately, and I think that yesterday, or not yesterday, yeah, it was yesterday, wasn't it? Was a bit of a record for how long I went. And she is rubbing against the camera. And so that meant that when I reached the midstream question, I was much more tired than usual. And as I was answering the people's midstream answers, I was barely able to string two words together. And so I was like, I don't feel like I am going to be able to properly praise and critique these stories the way that I want to. And then the other two reasons. So another reason was that my mom was showing us a movie, and I really didn't want to miss it. I wanted to watch it with her. And you know, part of the reason we were watching it is because kind of as like a Mother's Day celebration thing, and so I really wanted to watch it with her. And then the third reason is there was a little bit of a mix-up, which is that somebody who had not done their reviews went through. I still don't know why that happened. I am currently trying to talk to the council about it. I am hoping that we can figure out a better system so that doesn't happen in the future. I apologize for that happening. So I was able to grab a different fourth story. Well, it is now the fourth because of this mix-up, but I was able to grab a different fourth story for that from somebody who, well, I guess I didn't double check, but if all went according to plan, did do their reviews, which is Nature's Guardian. So I only practiced them once, and didn't really add that many notes. So if we do get that fourth one unlocked, it might be a little rougher kind of critique than usual. But I am willing to do it, and we do have somebody who properly did their reviews ready to go in that slot now. And now we can actually do that. Now I hopefully will actually have the energy if you guys so decide to unlock them all. Um, I guess I didn't. Well, I don't want to go that far. So our encores that were unlocked on Saturday. Hello, kitty. They were Shinigama and Shinny and Luna. And so those two are unlocked. Those are the ones that we are for sure going to be reading today. And then you can still unlock Joe and Nature's Guardian. So if you would like to unlock those stories, please do cheer. And I believe that Mako Cam and Death's Head and Wolf, you're all here. I believe that all the keepers of the bar are here. And so they will calculate if we have unlocked any more tonight. If you guys don't have the money or whatever reason don't want to unlock those, that is fine too. We will just do our allotted two and move on. Kitty, you are really something. You are really something, Kitty. Adorable, says Cheeseburger, Cheese Bacon Burger 1930. Yes, adorable cat. What do you mean, Wolf? Are we adding any additional cheers to the ones from yesterday, or are we staying over? As far as I knew, we were like 30% of the way to Encore 3 on Saturday, yesterday. So if, like that's where we are. I'm thinking wherever we landed yesterday with the encores and the cheers, that's where we are now today. The Jedi Council, amazing. Yeah, this says, I thought this was going to be Monday. This says, I don't think we set a concrete date. Yes, this is exactly the reason why I did not set a concrete date. Because the thing is that last week, I was like, okay, Sunday is May 5th. There is Dracula to be read that day. And in my head, I was like, guaranteed, I'm going to be streaming Sunday night, May 5th, Dracula. And it didn't happen. And so for that reason, I don't like to give guarantees when it's during the week. I can guarantee the writing group, mostly, unless I get sick or something. But for the most part, I can guarantee the writing group. But on other days, I can't give a guarantee. And so I was thinking, I was like, it's Mother's Day. I don't know if I'm going to, be able to stream tomorrow on Sunday. I feel like it's unlikely, especially because last Sunday didn't work out. And then here I am. and then it actually ended up being fine. And I wasn't too busy or tired or anything. And I'm ready to go. And I don't think I mentioned this. I don't know if I did on Saturday. But I was thinking on Saturday that I was like, if I can do it on Sunday, I would prefer to do it on Sunday. Because the new prompt has not gone up. The new intro hasn't. I don't know why I'm doing a basketball move. The new intro hasn't gone through the hoop yet. And so we're still in that nebulous zone. And I think that's a bit better and less confusing a time to continue the stream. Maybe that's just me. But yeah, so I was thinking if I can do it on Sunday, then I want to. I just didn't think I would be able to. But it turns out I was able to. So yeah. Excuse me, that's more explanation than you asked for. The movie was McFarland USA. It is a movie that I don't know if it's like become one of my mom's favorite movies, but it is one that she discovered that she really liked, that she really wanted to share with us. And my dad and I, more me, kind of have a monopoly on our movie picks. We pick the movies that we watch, and she goes along with us very graciously most of the time. And so, because this was her movie and her weekend and stuff, I was like, yeah, like we could maybe watch it on Sunday, but this is her weekend. Like I want to actually watch the movie tonight with her. And it was good. It was really good. I liked it. It was a very sweet movie. Yeah, it's actually a Disney movie. If you have Disney Plus, you can just look it up and find it. But I'm bad at summaries, but let's see if I can summarize. It's about this coach that is kind of mean to his players, football coach. And so he gets fired from his job, and he can't find a job anywhere but in one of the poorest cities in America, which is McFarland. And at first, he hates it. He wants to leave, but he learns to really fall in love with the people. And football coaching doesn't work out, but he sees that these kids that are working in the fields every day and then going to school, they have to run all the way from the fields to the school or back. And so he realizes, like, these kids can really run. And so he decides to instead form a cross-country team with them. And so it's about, him falling in love with the people and the town, and then of course them progressing in the sport in cross country. It's very, very sweet, very, very heartfelt, great little story. That is fair. Cat. I just gulped right in front of right in front of the mic. I wonder if you can hear that. All right. Okie dokie. But yes, okay. I have Shinny's story up and ready to go, so I think we will get going. I don't believe Shinny is here, but feel free to tag him. Probably weird him out if he hasn't gotten the other notifications and be like, what do you mean I'm being read? It's Sunday night. But yes, let us I guess I can still do my little intro. So welcome to the writing group. If you have not been here before, here's how this works. Every week we have a prompt that is submitted by supporters and voted on by everyone. We all write 350-word microfiction for and post it to the Discord. And then 8 stories are selected to be read here on the stream. 4 of those are guaranteed submissions, and 4 of those are encores. The guaranteed submissions are from our supporters, our subscribers. Well, my subscribers. I guess I'm used to saying our. I guess mine and my council, maybe. I mean, they don't get paid. They're volunteers, but yes. So yes, today. Yes, exactly. But anyways, my subscribers on Discord and Twitch. If you are a subscriber, then you, I really messed myself up because I usually say, all right, here's how you unlock the encores. And I was like, no, I'm going to talk about the guaranteeds first today. And then I messed up my groove. But, so there are 3 tiers. There is the $3 tier. That allows you to post prompts. So if that is what you are most excited about and into, that is the tier for you. If the The next tier is the $5 tier. That gives you access to submitting prompts, and when you submit your story, you automatically go into the guaranteed submissions.
Oh, kitty. Such a loud meow. Hi. I guess I can leave the door open. Usually can't, but maybe I can because it's nighttime. Maybe so.
And then the $5 tier gives you access to, yes, you can be in the guaranteed submissions, and you also get multi-posting powers. You can post to multiple stories. I don't know why I was gonna say redo powers. I was like, why am I thinking redo powers? No, multi-post powers. And then if you are at the $10 tier, then you get all of those rewards, and then the first prompt that you submit automatically goes into the final vote. And if you want a tag for your universe, let me know, and I can also do that. And then the encores are unlocked through cheering. So this stream is a little weird. This time it is split into 2 streams. So we did the guaranteed streams last stream. So if you have not watched that, after this is done, you can go over to the YouTube channel and go find part 1. This is part 2. This is all the encores. So back on the first part of the stream, you guys cheered enough to unlock 2 stories. So there's an invisible bar that you can get to 100%. That bar is kept and understood by MakoCam, Wolfsbane, and Deathsaid. And so they will let you know if we have unlocked a new story. Yes, and it is appreciated when you do that. The folks who get their stories read appreciate it, and I appreciate it. Just a lot of appreciation going around. Was there anything else I was gonna say? Hang on, just 1 second. Okay. I think we're ready. Oh, and I see there is in fact a cheer from MakoCam. Thank you so much. I didn't really notice this, but I guess on unless you have to, well, here. I'll test it. Okay, yeah. It doesn't actually show the number on my stream chat on the side, just in the actual chat. I feel like I'm always that sickly chartreuse color. I don't like it. Okay, I'm all weirded out because I don't usually start at the encores, but let's stop dilly-dallying and start the stories. I was cursed with the gift of the pen by Shinny Radiation. I was cursed with the gift of the pen. I'm exalted by my family and friends for my handcraft. To them, I am the second Hemingway, the new Tolstoy, the resurrection of the bard himself. They're mad. No one with any serious brain function could possibly look at my work and claim me to be such a titan among men. For every provocative metaphor, there are a dozen vulgar cliches writhing above the surface like snakes in the grass. My punctuation mocks me. My commas and semicolons refuse to stay in the correct place. But worst of all is the whole sense of the piece. Everything built up inside me, every emotion or thought welling up and bursting to come out, is mutilated upon the pen touching the paper. It's as though the very act of witnessing the words that seem so beautiful inside my head reveals them to be an illusion, worthless dirt, not fit to tarnish the page. But time and time again, I lower myself to defile the paper of my notebook. Time and time again, I pick up my pen and attempt to write. What is this devil that stokes the fires of literature within me? Who is this snake-tongued con man deluding me with hopes of worthier art? Is it me? Do I really believe that I can write something more than trash? Will I ever be as good as my loved ones claim me to be? What is it that I'm longing for? This despicable drive that forces me over and over again to draw the ink from the well, to scribble through swaths of scrap. Perhaps, for all my disdain and disregard for my own work, there is a part of me that does want to succeed. Perhaps there is a part of me that wants to be proud of even my most half-hearted works. And perhaps there's a part of me that hopes one day I will be worthy of my own acknowledgement. Throw up those moths and monsters. Cheer for this story if you loved it. The kitty has arrived. Here is the loaf. The little angel. Thank you for the cheers, Magistrate. And Death said, hey, is that a follower goal met. 80 out of 80. Oh, that's awesome. I don't get notified inside the stream of who followed me, but thank you to whoever followed me. I greatly appreciate it. Kitty. Oh, bounce. Alrighty, Roo. Whew. So, this is quite the one to start with. Very fair. And Magistrate Einlung says, that was the last of my bits, man. Imposter syndrome sucks. Very fair. Both true statements. There is no lie. Alright. So I really do not have much to critique about this piece. To be perfectly frank with you, I think this piece is a masterpiece. Like every line that I read, there's so much richness to it, and I just love it so much. Aw, Death said, frick it, unlock number 3, and gives a bunch of bits. And Maker Cam also offering bits. Thank you so much. There's apparently a new format to the cheers, because you went from, I don't know, like a purple color to green in the cheer tier. So I'm just gonna give you my single critique as far as I remember. This is my only critique, right off the bat, and then we will go into all the praise I have for this story. But my single critique is a critique I have mentioned before with a different story, which is that for me, it doesn't really work when the first line of the story is the same as the title of the story. It makes it so that, like, a couple things. That first of all, you end up not saying anything new and different with the title. We're actually going to see with Luna's story that Luna's title actually adds context to the story that is helpful. Thank you so much. Mako Cam gifted a tier 1 sub to Luna Bear's song. And that says 10 out of 10, so I guess Twitch also had a goal for like 10 out of 10 gift subs, which is awesome. Thank you so much for doing that. And as far as I know, now that goes into 4 a little bit. Yes, Luna is now amongst the supporters. So Luna, now you can actually post your 5 stories if you do decide to write 5 stories for the next prompt. So going back to what I was saying, it means the title doesn't add anything new or different. And it also means that it feels like when you get to the first line that it feels like the story hasn't really started yet, because it's like, okay, I've already read this. So you know, your brain kind of skips over it. Thank you for the cheer, Mako. You are just dropping bits left and right, and bits and gift subs and all the stuff. And then more bits. There's another hype train of bouncing emojis. Amazing. But anywho, so that's pretty much the only critique I have, is that the title and the first line being the same doesn't really work, at least for me personally. If you guys have an argument for why you think that does work, feel free to provide it. But anyway, so I assume that you went for the challenge. If you didn't see the challenge, that kind of makes it even more amazing. But my challenge for this week was to make your piece transcendent. That I talk about transcendence quite a bit on these streams. And what I mean by that is when a story goes beyond the page, when you as the reader can take the lessons or the images or whatever home with you, and you can relate to it in a different way, where it's not just, oh, that was entertaining. It's like, no, that said something, that meant something to me. And I don't believe that I've ever had the challenge of try to do that. Try to put transcendence into your piece. So yeah, I made that the challenge this week. And Shinny, my man, you knocked it out of the park. You were like, oh, you want transcendence? I'll give you transcendence. It especially is pretty poignant after our discussion, I think during the midstream question, which is that, like, because I was saying, oh, like, in the writing group, you kind of have to, it forces you not to have a target audience, because the writing group is full of different people, and then I'm reading all the stories, and so even if I'm not part of your target audience, you still have to write it for me. And so you kind of have to write these writing group stories in a different way, and then you might write like your novel. And then Eddie, who was talking about that, he was like, well, the writing group is my target audience. And he mentioned how there is one thing that will absolutely guaranteed to be the common denominator between all of us, which is that we are all writers. And so I don't know that Shinny was doing that on purpose. Well, I mean, he was, but I don't think he was doing it for the reasons we were talking about. But so not only did you fulfill the challenge and tap into transcendence, you tapped into that thing that we were talking about, where, like, we might not be your target, like, there's lots of different people in the writing group, and we might not all be your target audience in lots of different ways, but we are going to be your target audience if your target audience is writers. And so that works.
You are cute. You're cute and distracting and make me nervous.
Let's see. So I guess let's just start going through lines. So I was cursed with the gift of the pen. I do really like that idea, and very much is like, here we go. That is definitely, the prompt is, you know, a curse that is wondrous in some way, or a blessing that is horrid in some way. And you start us right off going, hey, I got this gift of the pen, but it also is something that I was cursed with. And basically the whole story is explaining, yep, here is how it is both a blessing and a curse. I think that works really well. I really love how it fulfills the prompt, not just in a not just in a fantastical way, but like I said, in a transcendent way, that, hey, all of us probably feel that way. All of us probably feel like the pen and being able to write is both a blessing and a curse. Or if you're sitting there going, I don't feel like I can write, but I keep trying, that is also its own, you know, curse and blessing and stuff. And so that is a great way to take this prompt. I really, really loved that. So I'm exalted by my family and friends for my handcraft. To them I am a second Hemingway, the new Tolstoy, the resurrection of the bard himself. I absolutely love that, not only that idea, but also that phrasing. There's such an amazing flow and gravity to each of those lines. Like, I love that you don't use the same thing, because you could have said, like, I'm a second Hemingway, I'm a second Tolstoy, I'm a second, you know, Shakespeare. I think we just got a new hype train, a level 2 hype train. Awesome. Thank you so much. But so you could have said like, oh, I'm the second, and it still would have, conveyed what the same idea, but it wouldn't have been as powerful. It wouldn't have read as beautifully, wouldn't have flowed as well. But using those different words makes it so rich and punchy. And then these are big names. I don't know. We did something. What did we do? We did it. Thanks for the support. 10 out of 10. I assume that means the 10 out of 10 gift subs, which is awesome. But so yeah, using these big names as well. And I'm not super familiar with Hemingway or Tolstoy, but I might reveal something about myself. But is Tolstoy the one who wrote War and Peace? Am I correct about that? Because that is a particularly interesting image, if I'm correct about that. And I love the use of, okay, that says yes. Oh, good. Oh, good. Okay, so now that I know it is him, I could say, like, Hemingway could be, like, he's more of, like, okay, I want to look it up to be sure. Okay. Hemingway. Okay, yeah. So that's pretty much what I thought. Yeah, short story writer and journalist. I think I was thinking of adding poetry in there. It doesn't seem like he's a poet, but yeah, so he writes short stories and stuff. And so it's like, okay, like the first one is I can write really good short stories, and that feels more like achievable and manageable. Like, okay, maybe, yeah, like maybe you could be a second Hemingway. And then you go to Tolstoy, and War and Peace, at least in my life, has been touted as like this monster of a book that I don't know if it's like the longest book, because I feel like stuff like the Bible it tends to be longer, and it all depends on like, I don't know how it's printed and stuff. But I remember it being touted as some like record holder, and it being this big beefy book. And so that one is like, oh, like you're gonna write the new War and Peace, you're gonna break records in the field of literature. That one starts to feel more fantastical and far-flung dreams. And then the resurrection of the Bard himself. I love the use of the Bard, not just Shakespeare, because that goes into this territory of, it would already be really work and be powerful if you use the name Shakespeare, but using the Bard like elevates it to legend. It's like he is this figure of legend. He's not just Shakespeare. He is the ultimate Bard. Please. Okay. He is the ultimate storyteller. He is the Bard of Bards, and that could be me. And using that term of not just the new Shakespeare, but the resurrection of him. Like, I am him a second time. Come again. Not just like a clone or a copy, or like, oh, I'm my own person, but I'm the new Tolstoy. It's I am the Bard again, which is War and Peace is like the poster child of a giant novel, even if it isn't really the longest. Very fair, very fair. But yeah, so those images really work for me, and they probably would have worked with other names as well, but I really like the names that you chose. I think it works super well. And I love how that shows the just like what, I don't know if this is autobiographical or not. I'm kind of assuming it is, but I don't know for 100% sure. But what was I saying? That that your family, you could just say, oh, I'm exalted by my family and friends for my handcraft, and that we would be like, oh yeah, like they give you compliments, that's nice. but going to the extent of saying, oh, to them I'm a second Hemingway. Oh yeah, like that's quite exalting. Like, okay, they really think you got it going on. And then the new Tolstoy, like, okay, wow, like, they really think you got it going on. The resurrection of the bard himself. It's like, I'm a god to my family, you know. And I don't think that, to be clear, I do not think that you're being, like, self-aggrandizing, you know, by, I think that's the right term, by, like, saying this if it is autobiographical. Like, I totally understand the idea, the feeling of your family and friends being like, you're amazing, and you're like, am I though? I totally get that feeling, and I don't think you're trying to put yourself on a pedestal if that's what it sounds like. I'm just having fun in my descriptions, but so yeah, so these images really convey, like, I am not just, like, praised by my family. My family thinks of me in this perhaps fantastical way, that they think that I am so good, that I am the resurrection of the bard, that they place me so high on that pedestal I can't see the top anymore. And it's like both this, again, as the prompt, it's both this blessing and this curse, because it's, oh, thanks, guys, that's really sweet, that boosts my ego. And then there's also that feeling of, like, whoo, I don't know that I can live up to those expectations, or, you know, I don't know that I'm that high up. I maybe bring the pedestal down a little. Which is neat. And then I like the continuation, you know, they're mad. No one with any serious brain function could possibly look at my work and claim me to be such a titan among men. Beautifully described. I love that you don't describe it in the same way. Like, you could have repeated it and been like, oh, I don't know why they think so highly of me. I don't know why they exalt me so. But you got creative with it and were like, they're mad. And it's this very old phrase of, you know, not just... What was the first thing I thought of? They'd be cray-cray. But it's not a more modern phrase of, like, they're crazy or they're nuts. It's kind of this old phrase of they're mad, which makes you seem like an even better writer. Makes you seem like that how do I describe that? I know. I guess, like, just puts you into the space of these writers. It puts you into a more like older, elegant style in a way. In that response, that you kind of respond in the same way that they're talking. Like, they're talking in this grand sense, and you respond almost in this old grand sense. And then you go to that more modern phrase of no one with any serious brain function. Really fun way to describe that. Really like that. Titan among men. Beautiful phrase there as well. And very different, right? So that Titan is kind of this more mythical sort of feeling. And what was I gonna say? That the other ones seem more like historical, and then Titan goes more mythical, and that it's this new image that also works and adds to it. So that is great as well. Hang on, I want to turn on the air conditioning.
Hi, kitty.
Interesting. Which is also, considering the way Hemingway died, I'm not sure I want the comparison. I don't know how he died. Do you wanna elaborate or not? Meiko Kim says it seems like we're at 80% of the way to unlocking 4, I believe, which would be awesome. Unless it's 3 and I misunderstood something earlier. But anyway, so for every provocative metaphor, there are a dozen vulgar cliches writhing above the surface like snakes in the grass. So, Magistrate Ironlung answered me. Self-inflicted gun wound. Gotcha. Makes sense, and definitely a more concerning comparison now. But writers do often be tortured souls. But anyways, going back to the line. So this line here that I have highlighted, there aren't very many times when I have to stop reading a story. When I first read something, I have to stop, pause, and just sit with what I read for a second because it's just that good. That happened with that line. That when I read them when I'm going through them, I read them aloud to my mom in the car, and so I read that line. I was like, I just need to stop a second. I need to stop and think about that. Actually, if we still had 30-ish% from yesterday, then we have Encore 3 now. I don't understand what you're saying. Are you saying that, like, so, yesterday that we unlocked 1 and 2, and then we got 30% of the way to 3, and so you're talking about that? Okay, so we passed Encore 3. Gotcha. Yeah, so I really adore this metaphor. I can, well, first of all, it's so meta because it's like for every provocative metaphor, there are a dozen vulgar cliches writhing above the surface like snakes in the grass. And that is a provocative metaphor. That as you were talking about not being able to do provocative metaphors, you do a provocative metaphor. And that is an image I can totally like envision, and I think it's really cool. And like for me, that is so relatable, and that image is so perfect. So like as much as I can, I don't like to use cliches in my writing. I know that they can work, and if you don't want to, if you like them, that's fine. But for me, I want to get creative. I want to be able to convey this idea, this image, in my own words, and not just in a cliche. And so this is exactly how I feel like when I arrive at a line. What immediately comes to mind is a cliche. Like, it feels like, it absolutely feels like those cliches are sitting there writhing in the grass, and I'm wanting to try to get down to the dirt beneath, or the garden beneath, and to find that juicy tomato of a metaphor. So yeah, I adore that very much, and I love the phrasing also of not just like there are a dozen cliches. It's like a dozen vulgar cliches that it's like, oh, they're base, they're vulgar. Really neat image there too. That snakes can be great, but in general, snakes are kind of compared to a vulgar sort of animal, and so that also adds something to the image there as well. My punctuation mocks me. My commas and semicolons refuse to stay in the correct place. Very relatable. That of course I have run into that, and I'm sure everyone here has run into that, where it's like, a comma goes here, right? No, it goes over there. So that's very relatable. As well, that sometimes it's hard to figure out the right place, or you put it in one place and then it's like, nope, it needs to walk over there. The worst of all is the whole sense of the piece. So we go from the specifics to the larger, and it's basically going like, but worst of all, the whole thing just sucks, you know? Everything built up inside me, every emotion or thought welling up and bursting to come out is mutilated upon the pen touching the paper. I love this image too. I'm going to be a broken record with this story, but wait, why were you digging for tomatoes? Yeah, I guess potatoes would work better. Yeah, there's a bunch of snakes over the potato field. I just thought of random crop. I wasn't actually putting it together that so tomatoes are not in the ground. Kitty. Oh yes. So like this feeling of everything built up inside me, every emotion, thought welling and bursting, like that, at least to me, like that sentence feels like what you were talking about. That, oh no, kitty, 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 kitty. Oh my goodness. Yeah, you only just barely touched it, and we went everywhere. Speaking of semicolons not staying in the right place. Did I have other comments that it deleted, or is this one I didn't comment on a lot because I knew I'd just go through every line. But I guess I can try one more time. That was blue. Yeah. Okay. There wasn't anything else she cut. Okay, so like that, I can really feel like with the verbs that you used, and the length of the sentence, I can really feel that building. It's built up inside me. Because you could have just said, everything built inside me is mutilated upon the pen touching the paper. Would have worked, would have still been beautiful. But lengthening it and going, everything built up inside me, every emotion or thought welling up and bursting to come out. Like, I feel that idea of it's here, it's ready to burst, is mutilated upon the pen touching the paper. Like, you feel the vulgarity of that next line, that, oh, here it is, it's bursting, and it's mutilated as the next line. That is so cool, and I love that word mutilated is such a violent word, and like I just I get this image of like trying to either, I kind of have a couple images. Like one image is like putting the pen to the paper and like the words becoming these horrible, like distorted black lines that are, or like red lines. Kitty. Another image is like trying to put the pen to the paper and the pen just like breaking and bleeding and stuff. The other image is like trying to put your pen to the paper and then like your hand getting covered in cuts and blood and stuff like that. But I'm sure the first one is more of the meaning of like the words, the ideas, the beautiful things from my head they're mutilated on the paper. But it's just such an evocative word that works really well. And it's not just this idea of, because you do have like the illusion image in a second, which also works, but alone, if you just started here with like, oh, everything built up inside me proves itself to be an illusion, would have still worked, but I don't think it would have worked as well as this violent word of like the things that are so beautiful and welling up to bursting. It is mutilated, it is abused, it is molested, it is utterly annihilated when I try to put it on the page, and that is so evocative, and I really love it, and it really gives this sense of like just how far it falls, how far the idea and that you love so much in your head falls from grace when it falls to the page. It's as though the very act of witnessing the words that seem so beautiful inside my head reveals them to be an illusion, worthless dirt, not fit to tarnish the page. Again, very beautiful. I feel like, and I'd be curious to hear your guys's, actually, if you guys haven't already said it, like, I'd be really curious to hear which parts of this story you relate to the most and why, if you're willing to share. But I feel like that's got to be a part that most writers will relate to, of this idea of it was so beautiful in my head. What happened when it got put to the page? It got ruined. Um, um, and that's even something. So I have an interesting interesting journey with this that I think I've talked about before, but I'll talk about it here, which is that, like, in the past I didn't write anything down because, yeah, like, the minute that I wrote it down on the page, yeah, it did feel like it got mutilated. It felt like, oh, like, this is so amazing, and it was really discouraging, as a kid, that it's like, and at when you are a kid, we were kind of talking about this in the last stream. When you are a kid, you don't think, that's right, I'm a dumb little kid and I'm not gonna know how to write yet. And you're like, no, like, I must know. I must be the new Tolstoy. I love the idea of a kid just sitting there and it's like, what's up, bud? Like, you seem like you're upset, and you're like, I was supposed to be the new Tolstoy. But yeah, like, as a kid, like, even though it is totally, like, understandable for a kid not to know how to write yet, and for the ideas indeed not to come out right. But as a kid, you don't really know that. You think that they should be great. You want the results now. You want to be the new Tolstoy now. And so I wouldn't write anything down because I didn't want that to happen. And also because, like, I could just keep thinking about the ideas in my head and keep going over them. I mean, that's what makes it funny. I said, I doubt children know anything about Tolstoy. That's what makes it so funny, is the thought of, like, a kid who's read War and Peace. And they're just sitting there and they're like, I was gonna be the new Tolstoy. The fire has left their eyes. They know they have been hardened by the world already. But anyways, so I didn't write anything down, and that oh yeah, and I was saying, like, that in my head, like, I could keep going over the scene and be like, okay, like, I thought I had a conceptualization of this scene last week, but let's try it again and do it again, and hopefully I can create a better idea, which maybe won't happen if it gets written down. It won't, at least that's how it felt at the time, that it's like, this isn't gonna improve because it's done, and I'm not gonna go over it again in my head and make it better. And when it's in your head, you can think about lots of things. You can think about specific scenes, the plot, the world building, the characters, like, just, you can think about everything at once and nothing at all. And it feels so big and wonderful, and writing it down, can potentially take that away. And so, yeah, as I said, I didn't write anything down, and that was a blessing and a curse, because on the curse side, I don't have that writing anymore. Like, there were so many stories. There were dozens of story ideas that I had as a kid that I remember the initial idea, but I do not remember the specifics. And as a kid, I had the specifics. I had the chapters in my head, like, specifically, but I didn't write them down. And if I had written them down, then me today, I could go grab Kid Me's writings and be like, aha, I see what the idea was, Kid Me. Let's actually try to make something with that. Let's make that better. And I, like I said, today I can be like, yes, Kid Me, you were a child. You were never going to be good. It was going to get mutilated. It is the way of things. But that mutilation needed to happen then, so that it could get better now. So that I could have it now to work with. And the fact that I didn't write that stuff down and I didn't let it get mutilated back then means that I don't have it now. And so it can't it can't be what kid me wanted, even if I try it again, and it could still be something cool if oh, there's an ad, if adult me created a new idea for it, it could still potentially be cool, but it's not going to be the same as what kid me wanted, and I may never remember what kid me wanted, and so those ideas, or at least parts of those ideas, are lost forever to time because I wasn't willing to let those ideas be mutilated on the page. But the blessing side of it, there's a couple of blessing sides. One blessing side is it's really discouraging. I don't know if I should pause. I don't know how many people are getting this ad. I guess I can show the kitty while we're waiting. I don't know if you can hear the tiny squeak.
The tiny squeak. And here's another cat. Can you see her? Nope, but you can probably hear her. Kitties.
Alright.
Meow, yes.
But on the yes, kitty. On the blessing side, it's really discouraging when you write it down and it's not as good in your head, and who knows how discouraged I would have gotten. Would I have gotten so discouraged that I was like, I'm done with these ideas, I'm never gonna go after them again because it sucks when I put it on the page? Would I have been like, I can't be a writer, I'm not a good writer, and so I'm not going to keep pursuing this? Or would I have done what I wanted it to be? Would it be that I could do it so that I could have it here now and I wouldn't have gotten discouraged? It's possible, but it's unlikely. And so, yeah, like even though me today, I'm like, why didn't you write it down, kid me? I want those ideas. I want them to work with now. Even though I think that, it could have been disastrous if I had. It's possible that there would have been huge problems and things would have been worse, and so maybe this was this was the best of all worlds, that I that it happened as it happened. And then the other benefit is that it meant that one particular story ended up really capturing me. And another thing about this is that, like, I had a list of all my ideas, and I still have that list as far as I know. That it was just like the titles. It would be the title of the book, or just a summary, a phrase that is a summary of, this is the idea for the story. And like I would occasionally like open up and be vulnerable and show people my list of ideas. And when I did, there was a particular one that they were all like, that one, that's interesting. And so I don't know if it was mostly me liking the idea and wanting to go forward with it. I don't know if it was mostly getting that encouragement and being like, people like this one, let's go for this one. Or if it was, a mixture. I'm pretty sure it was a mixture. But one idea did end up standing out. And that idea that I had in 2010 is the Ballad of the Monsters today. It's not the same as what I was in 2010. It's very different in a lot of ways, but it is the same story, and at least Savion and Lestaire are the same. Maybe not all the characters are the same, but Savion and Lestaire are the same, and there is still a shadow monster. And some of the main plot is the same. And so, would that have happened if I had written it down? Like, cause like I said, me today, I'm like, I wish you wrote down the like initial idea, because it's really different, and I want to have that. I want to have the initial like story written down. But if I had done that, would that mean that I wouldn't ever get to where I am today? Would that mean that if the story got onto the page and moved on from my head, would it become solid then and not continue on? Would it not live on in my head for years to come and then be able to be written later down the road? I don't know. It's definitely and you know, even if it did live on, would it have become what it is today? Would it be a totally different story? Would it never move on from that initial stage, you know? Which, you know, I still think is a fun story too. But yeah, so like there are questions, there are pros and cons to writing it down versus not writing it down. And I do think that, again, I don't know if I've talked about this before. I think I have, but I'm still going to talk about it. I basically trained myself. Anytime, I don't remember what it was that made me start doing this, but I just would have, it actually started out in an email draft, that I would just jot down any idea I had. If it could be a sentence that is like, like, what if this though? What if dragons? You know, something like that. It could be an entire scene. It could be just like a full written out scene, you know, as how I wanted it. It could be anything, but any idea I had for this story, I wrote down in this little email draft. And so I trained myself to stop keeping it in my head. I trained myself to get it out of my head and get it onto the page. And I think one of the things that helped with this format is that it's when it was in this like email draft, it's very low pressure. That instead of being like, all right, we have the Word document, let's get our cup of coffee, let's sit down, begin story. You know, it wasn't that. It was, all right, let's look at the phone, jot it down, all right, let's go about our day. And so yeah, it trained me to write everything down. And I still do that. I don't do it in email anymore because email drafts get deleted after a certain point. But I have it in a Word document, in a Google Doc. It's split up into many Google Docs. And I text stuff to myself. I will just, like I said, if I have a bit of dialogue, if I have a scene, if I have a single line of world building, I'll just text it to myself. And I highly recommend doing that. Whatever format you might need to get into that headspace of A, writing everything down, and B, not putting so much pressure on yourself and just letting yourself be like, okay, like I have this idea, let's jot it down, and it doesn't have to be the story. It doesn't have to be, here we are with the Word doc, you know, sort of thing. I highly recommend it. And all that to say, it's kind of funny that we're talking about this now because last week, and I know I'm really going ham on this, but this is actually one of the other reasons. I mean, I kind of already said it. I already said in the past stream that that I wouldn't be able to do the stories justice while I was tired and rushed. And this is part of why, because I knew that not just in terms of regular praise and critique, which already can go really long, I knew I was going to get deep on Shinny's, and I wanted to be able to. So I hope it's helpful. I hope you're enjoying it, but I am letting myself do it and go ham with it. But anyways, so last week was Metamorphosis, and that was the prompt. And if you know anything about my stories, you know that there's a metamorphosis that's kind of a big deal in my story. That is kind of a pretty dang crucial point. And so I didn't really feel like yeah, I could have taken the prompt in other ways, but it did really feel like, yeah, I really need to go, I need to Why did I lose my train? Oh, I need to do this story. I need to do the actual transformation. I need to not hold back and chicken out and do something else. I need to do the actual transformation here. And this is how I was feeling before I wrote that. I was like, and it's weird because I had two stories and I have different experiences with both those stories. One was the actual transformation. That one I avoided writing. Even with my notes document, I avoided writing it. And because I felt like, this is supposed to be this idea of the most painful thing that anybody could ever go through, because it's basically any sort of like pain or change or disease or whatever that you could have. Well, not exactly disease, but like any sort of pain that you could have in your body, you're experiencing all of those pains at once. And so pain is really difficult to get across in writing, at least in my experience, that it's very hard to get somebody to feel your pain. And it actually, so in that story, there's this image of spiders with needles for legs. And the place where I first thought of that image is when I was first reading Harry Potter, and I read it first as a teenager, that there's a curse in Harry Potter called Crucio, where you, it's the torture curse. It's just causes you pain. And it's supposed to be, like the most painful thing you could experience. But at least for me, don't really feel it. It's just saying the words like, it was pain beyond anything. I can't feel that. I'm like, all right, yeah, it's pain. Okay. I don't feel that in my bones. It doesn't make me squirmy. It doesn't make me writhe. And I was like trying to think of an image, like, okay, what image would I come up with for this? And I thought of this idea of like spiders with needles for legs crawling on you. I was like, I like that. I'm going to use that for Savion's transformation. And so, so that also tells you that this story has been decades in the making. But for that story, I didn't want to write it down because I was like, I have this inkling of an image, but I don't feel like it's going to do it justice. I don't feel like I'm going to be able to convey the amount of pain and horror that I want to convey in writing. It's just going to fall apart when I try to write it down. And then the other story is the opposite. The other story is him first waking up after the transformation. That is a story I've written many times. And as the story changed, that scene changed. That scene has had many revamps. The setting of it changes. Who's with him changes. Like all these different aspects of it change. And so that scene, like I wrote so many times, but it in the act of writing all those times, it felt like, oh, it's never concrete. Like, I can keep coming back to this. I can keep redoing this. And so the thought of writing it for the writing group to actually read it, it was like, that makes it more concrete. And of course, like, these aren't the actual published novels. Of course, I can, change it. But it's the first time I'm sharing either of these scenes with people. And for one of them, first time I'm actually really trying to write it. I tried a little bit, a couple of times, but chickened out quickly. But yeah, and so both of these stories were very scary to me, and both of them felt like I'm gonna defile them by writing them down. And I had lots of mixed feelings throughout the week, but what's happening to me now is that I'm working on the long version of that second one. Well, first of all, something I need to say is that people did say that they felt the pain. They did say that it felt evocative and felt like it was trying to do what I wanted it to do, which is amazing. And of course, I can't feel what they'll feel, so I don't know, for sure if I got what's in my head across to them. But I know that they said, they didn't walk away from the story going, oh, I'm sorry, Kaylee, I didn't feel this. I didn't feel like you accomplished that. So the fact that people could walk away and go, yeah, I think that you did it. I think I felt it. Is amazing. I cannot, words can't describe it. Trying to put the words out into the world doesn't get what's in my head out into the world. But anyways, the other thing to say is that I've been working on the long version of the one where he first wakes up after transforming. And, I guess we'll have to see if I still feel this way coming back to it in a few months or something. But right now, I feel like this is the best version of the scene that I have ever written. And I know that kind of makes sense. It's like, yeah, it's the latest version. Of course, it's going to be the best version. But there are so many things about this scene that would feel like, it would feel like this part of it doesn't work, but I'll come back to it later. Or like, I don't know about this. This is a little janky. But I'm feeling that much less with this version. I'm actually feeling like, at least in some ways, that I am getting what I want onto the page. And I did not anticipate feeling that way. I very much felt like I would feel like, I don't want this to be concrete. I don't want to send this to people because it is, it has been ruined by making it concrete, by knowing that I'm actually going to show this to people. But I'm not really feeling that way. Like there are hiccups and jankiness and stuff, of course, but I actually feel like I'm getting what I want onto the page, at least on a pretty good level. Even if it's not the 100% level, it's on a pretty good level. And like I said, that is not something I anticipated feeling. And so all that to say, I think you can do it. All that to say, I think you absolutely can get to that point where it doesn't feel like your words are getting mutilated on the page. Where, and I do think that it does take some training, and that training could look different for different people, but I do highly recommend that method of write it all down, try to find a way that is less pressure, and write it down that way. I highly recommend that because I do think that really trained that part of me to, in a lot of ways, go away. That part of me that goes, oh, it sucks now. You're mutilating it on the page. It was great in your head, but once you get it on the page, gross. I think that doing that and being like, everything that goes in your head, write it down, write it in a low pressure environment. Has slowly been like first of all training that part of my brain to not to kind of go away, if not completely, silence it for the most part. And second of all, I think it trained me to actually be able to write what's in my head to for the most part. And there is a sense in which we'll never be able to fully, get what's in our heads onto the page. But doing that, I think, has trained me to be able to know how words work and how to make them do what I want, how to corral the words or manipulate them and to be my minions. So I know that was a long, I don't know, tangent's not quite the right word because it was on the topic, but I know that was a long explanation. But at the end of the day, like, I wanted to give an actual example of, hey, it's not the end. You can get there. You can make the words your minions. Like, it takes work, but I do believe that with some hard work, you can get to that point where it doesn't feel like you're mutilating your words on the page. But and a spiel, a diatribe, analysis. It was analysis. I mean, was it? It was a personal story that ended up as a encouragement, ended up as a rally to action. But let's go back to the story. The time and time again, I lower myself to defile the paper of the notebook. Now I like how you're taking it from this idea of not just the words are getting the words, the ideas, and that's something I didn't talk about, that I do love this idea of ideas, a conceptual thing that has no physical form, being mutilated, which is such a physical word. I love that as well. So now it goes from not only are the ideas mutilated, the page is defiled. The page itself should not bear my words. I am defiling it by writing it down. That's a neat image as well. Time and time again, I pick up my pen and attempt to write. That mirrors the over and over again in a bit, which is neat. And then we go to, what is this devil that stokes the fires of literature within me? Very, very, poetic, grand image that feels kind of, I don't know, Dante-esque that I like. Who is the snake-tongued con man? Snake-tongued con man deluding me with hopes of worthier art. I love those words, those phrasings. Very, very beautiful, very creative. And like when I read that, I'm like, oh, it's your friends and family. They encouraged you, and they're thinking that you can do it. And then the next line is it me? And that's really interesting. And I like this idea of you versus others. That others are definitely stoking the fire as well and deluding you with hopes of worthier art. Hopefully not deluding, but telling you that you can do worthier art. But I love this idea of going, maybe it's me too. Maybe I want that too. And it's this it's like this dark thing that is condemned. Is it me? Am I this horrible person who is telling me that I can be great? That's such a cool conflict and juxtaposition that I really like. Do I really believe I can write something more than trash? Will I ever be as good as my loved ones claim me to be? What is this? What is it that I'm longing for? This despicable drive that forces me over and over again to draw the ink from the well, scribble through swaths of scrap. I love the scribbles through swaths of scrap. That's a great image. But yeah, just continuing on with this image, really, really like it. And I like, what is this despicable drive? And we'll see in the next line, perhaps for all my disdain and disregard for my own work, there's a part of me that does want to succeed. And it's really interesting how, of course you want to succeed. We all want to succeed, right? And that's, not an evil thing to want. But I love how it's described in that way. It's described as this despicable, devilish thing of how dare you long for success? How dare you think that you could succeed? I think that's really poignant, and again, probably how a lot of us feel, that it's I want to succeed. And I guess there is another level, because how do you define success? Because for some, your family thinking of you as the new Tolstoy could be success. For others, getting published is success. Well, let's go a little smaller first. Maybe for others, it's just writing a completed short story, or writing this many words today, or this many pages. That could be success. And then the next level could be, writing a novel could be a success. And then getting published could be success. And that one is a bit more difficult, because that's an actual thing that requires others to approve of your work, and not just approve of it, but pay you money for it, and put it out there, and that makes it feel more unattainable. And so if it's do I really believe, I guess the thing I should have said is writing a good story could be success, right? And so it's perhaps there's part of me that does want to succeed, and so it's does want to write a good story. Or another thing just thought of is, it could be get the stuff that's in my head onto the page. that could be another definition of success. And that's, I feel like the use of success here is either that one, or it's be a success in my eyes, that I like it, which I guess is the same thing. That I guess to be a success in your eyes, it would mean that you got what was in your head onto the page, because that's what makes you feel like a failure. So I guess that would be success there. And so basically, depending on how you define success, it might be easier or more difficult to succeed. That might be a higher bar or a lower bar. And so this idea of, oh my gosh, like, how dare I long for success, has this idea with it that success is this unattainable star, out there that you can never hope to reach, when it could be down here with the potatoes. it could be very easy to hit. And so, yeah, I just think that's a really interesting image that is fun to think about. Perhaps there is a part of me that wants to be proud of even my most half-hearted works. So then here's a new image, that it's not just that success of, okay, I want to put my whole heart into it and I want to have what's in my head on the page. Now this lowers the bar a little and goes, there's part of me that wants to be, well, I guess depending on things, that could be highering the bar. But to be proud of my most half-hearted works, is that easier to hit, to be, maybe not success, but you know what, I was proud of that, even though I didn't put my, every time I think of this, it makes me think of I don't remember where I got it, where it's like, don't half-ass anything, put your whole ass into everything, so it's like, yeah, I didn't put my whole ass into that story, but I'm still proud of it. Is that easier to hit, or is it harder to hit? Like, I didn't put my whole ass into this, but you know what? I'm still proud of that, but a neat idea either way. And then, of course, we have the final line of, perhaps there's a part of me that hopes one day I will be worthy of my own acknowledgement. So then that takes things to a clearer and deeper and more difficult layer of not just success, which could be defined by others or could be given by others. It's not just like, oh yeah, I want to have some pride for my half-hearted works. It's, I want to be worthy in my own eyes. I want to be able to acknowledge myself. And that definitely feels like something, especially after the story we just read, much harder to do. Much harder to hit and attain. And I love the mirroring in this story, that the story starts with, hey, everybody thinks I'm great. I'm exalted in the eyes of my family. And it ends with, I'm not exalted in the eyes of myself. And it's not just, I'm exalted in the eyes of my family. It's, I am the resurrection of the bard himself. The pedestal is, you can't see the top of the pedestal. It's so high. And then at the end, it's, I can't even acknowledge myself. And acknowledgement can mean a lot of different things, but it could mean just a nod. It could just mean, yeah, I see you. I see that you're there at the table on the other end of the coffee shop. I see you there. It could be something grander than that. It could be like, it could be exalting. It could be exalting yourself and being like, yes, I do think I'm the new Tolstoy. You can do it, kid me. But it could be that simple. It could be like that nod of acknowledgement, that even that much you feel like you can't muster for yourself. And I think that is a very powerful and beautiful and sad idea that a lot of us can probably relate to. But yeah, like, and it's interesting because I think I don't know. So I always get paranoid because I don't know if people get annoyed. Hello, go away. I don't know if people get annoyed when I talk about things that I've talked about before, or if they're like, oh, it's been a while, like I'm interested to hear the story again, or if newcomers are like, I didn't hear it the first time, tell it. So I'm always being like, I'm sorry if I've told this before, but I'm gonna tell it again. But there's this idea in I think it's called Mind of the Maker. This idea from Dorothy Sayers that my dad really likes and will often talk about, and so it's ingrained in my head, and I like it too. I haven't read the book, but I think it's an interesting idea, which is the idea of there's the idea in the head of the author. There's the idea made physical on the page, and then there's the idea in the mind of the reader. And those are three different things, but all the same thing. It's all one idea for those three things, but it's all different. And so this story, I feel like, really touches on that idea of, okay, what's in my head isn't what's here. But what's in everybody else's head is also great. Everybody loves what goes into their head from this. It's just what goes in here is not the same as what's over here. And this story would be, the interesting thing is, it would be, at least I think, more tragic if it was, I liked this. I think I got this onto this. I think it's great. And then over here, or did I do it this way? Over here, the reader is like, I didn't like it. I didn't think that the story was good. That is really heartbreaking when that happens. They are both heartbreaking in their own different ways. That the writer being like, oh yes, this we're jiving, this works, and then the reader going, we ain't jiving. And then in this story we have the opposite issue, which is like, we jiving, this is good, page to reader, looking great. But the writer is going, but it's not what I wanted. It's not what started up here. It's just really, really interesting and mind-boggling and sad to think about. What was I gonna say? I feel like there was another big idea for this story I wanted to talk about that's kind of related to that, but now I'm not remembering. But I guess at the end of the day, like that is the struggle of being a writer. It's just, you have two difficult things to do. You have get this onto this. That's already hard enough. And then it's get this. No, get this over here. And so there's a lot of barriers to success that makes it a very interesting and difficult art in a lot of ways.
Hi, kitty. I have a kitty at my feet.
Nice. Elena says, most if not all of my best writing happens at night, but sleep gets in the way a lot. Very fair. Have you seen the memes that are like, me during the day, like sitting at the computer, like, all right, brain, like, that's time to write, and brain's like, unicorns, and then at night it's like, okay, brain, time to sleep, and brain's like, I have the best idea for your story. It's like, gosh dang it. I actually have, let me see if it's all like holy and old and gross, but let's see if it's not too gross to show you. Hold on. Forgot that I took it off my pillowcase. So, actually, wait, there's one, I was gonna say, so I don't know where it is, but there's one other place I can check. Well, I didn't see it there, and I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna go too long trying to search for it. So, but what it is it's a pillowcase that looks like a notebook, and you can write on it. That you can. It comes with markers so that you can. Oh, hi, kitty. That you can write on it, and then it'll wash out with the next wash. And so I would do that, so that I would get an idea at night, and I would write it down on my pillowcase. There are problems with that. First problem, my handwriting's bad, and so typing will always be better for me. Second of all, when you're sleepy, yes, grabbing a pen and writing on your pillowcase is better than pulling out the phone that does what my camera does from time to time. One of you should try and make a meme of that. If you can grab 2 screenshots of me, like one of just, a normal me, and then the other one of me super bright is like when I open my phone at midnight or something like that. Anyways, so yeah, like writing on your pillowcase at midnight at 1 a.m. or whatever time it is better for your sleepy little brain than opening a screen. But it does mean that sometimes it's just scribbles. It's just baseless scribbles that no one can understand, including myself. Mako has to go. Gonna have to catch the VOD for the rest. Just can't stay up for 2 more stories. Fair enough. I doubt they're gonna be as long as this. I knew that this one was gonna be the big boy. Fair enough. I hope you have good sleep. We were talking about sleep. I hope you have good sleep. I either bless you or curse you with to have ideas as you sleep. Yeah, so sometimes I would wake up and I'd be like, oh yeah, like that's the idea, it's the greatest. And then I wake up in the morning and I'd be like, what did you write? What were you smoking? I can't read this. I hope you have a good sleep. Me too. Very fair. That do be how it feels. But if you have good handwriting and you have faith in your 1 a.m. self, that you can in fact, whoa, cat, don't step on the keyboard. That you could in fact write your ideas legibly on a pillowcase. I recommend buying this pillowcase. There's also a comforter that could come with it. It's pretty expensive though. Anywho. So I think I have said most of what I wanted to say and probably more than I wanted to say about this story. But it was awesome. I think you did an amazing job. Like, you're in a story lamenting about your ability to write. You have written a masterpiece, which I think is pretty awesome. Kitty, you were always calling for help.
You're always calling for help. We don't need help. We need your paws to not be on the keyboard.
Silly. Yeah, I think you did an awesome job, and this is amazing. This is relatable. This is transcendent, and it does get better. I do believe that you can get the idea in your head onto the page. And I think your stories are great. I love them on the stream and stuff. But clearly the story is about what you love. And so I do believe that one day you can be worthy of your own acknowledgement. I think I briefly saw most of the comments, but I'll take a brief look. Yeah, so that was something I was talking about before. Mako says, for me, I tend to not write things down because the ideas are still malleable that way. Once they've been written down, I feel in stone. That's what I was talking about. I didn't see you reply to that. Maybe you did, but yeah, that was exactly part of the issue. But I guess that's part of the point of the exercise that I was talking about, is that that exercise of taking your ideas and writing them in like an email draft or a text or whatever it is for you, like maybe the Notes app or something like that, do it in such a way where it still feels malleable. You need to do it in a way, because like I said, yeah, if you get out the Word doc and are like, all right, we're writing today, yeah, that feels very in stone. But if you can train your brain to go, hey, if I write it this way, if I write it on my phone, if I write it in text, then it's still malleable. Like whatever you need to do for that to be true, that's what you should do. And there is there is a training arc to it as well that you do no matter what format you use. You probably will have to train your brain to go, no, it's not set in stone. I'm just writing it down so I have it. And you do kind of have to do it enough times that you start to believe it, you know? Yeah, there you go, kitty. There you go. I don't know if that's a quote from something or something you made up, but Najee Bajak says, "Clay is thy medium, shaped and abused, pain from its flaws, sparked by its hues. Am I the moulder? I ask, so confused. Which one is twisted? Which one is muse?" That is cool. I guess Najee Bajak says, Najee Bajak, that's fun to say. Says, hello, Moth and I. Don't know if you're saying hello to Mothless or if that is the name of the writer of that, but that is very cool. Yeah. Now imagining a child obsessed with Russian literature with the Tolstoy thing, yes. Yeah, just some kid talking about Dostoevsky, Tolstoy, and Gogol while his friends are talking about Bluey or something. Hey man, adults can talk about Bluey too. Bluey's awesome. But yeah, I love the idea of like, well, yes, so like the main character of War and Peace, but it's just a 5-year-old. And were I a betting man, I bet the majority of this stream is talking about Shinny's story. The radiation, it's spreading. It's got to it. But yes. Put your whole ass in and throw it in a circle. Nice. Aw, thanks, Luna. I'm glad that I can be adorable. Come and I love Bluey. Aw, that is great to hear. Yeah, I haven't like completed what's on Disney Plus, but I have watched quite a bit of it and greatly enjoyed what I did watch. All right, let us, after 2 hours on one story, oh my gosh, that's the same as a Dracula stream. Like that's like 10 pages or more of Dracula, and it was one story. Oh my gosh. I hope it was enjoyable. I hope you liked it. And my sincerest apologies if it was not. But let us go on to Luna's story. Would death be preferable? By Luna. Marissa sat outside of the family meeting room, hands cradling her head, shiftless, rotated inside of her mind, alongside the remembered disdain from others of the Lycan community. Why me? That question haunted her, and dawn hadn't brought any clarity. Her older brother, Chet, sat beside her, munching on a huge breakfast. "I'll go this way, Riss," he said around a mouthful. "I guess you don't have to worry about fleas, or shedding." He swallowed, then chuckled. The levity wasn't shared, and Marissa remained still until the door opened. She jumped up, meeting her father's sympathetic eyes and her mother's dismissive glare. Errol, the head of the Lycan division from the council, filed out last. His thin black hair was secured in a topknot, and one gray eye was permanently closed thanks to 4 thick diagonal scars. His brief smile was more of a grimace, but it was gentle. Marissa kept her gaze locked onto his as he held her final verdict. "Mr. Thornbrake?" She gulped down her whimper, hating how she trembled. "Under normal circumstances, when humans discover the supernatural, accounting for severity, there's a process to determine if a trial or a simple memory erasure is needed. With you, however, given your age and you being born to a Lycan family, there's only one viable option." Marissa's lungs seized, her dry sockets prickled without producing tears, and her vision spotted. "Death," she wheezed. "I'm human because I'm shiftless. Now I'm going to be executed. Right? Her voice grew shrill, nearly hysterical, but she couldn't calm down. Strong arms wrapping her up from behind, and Errol's heavy hand to her shoulder brought her back. "For you, Marissa, you will be placed under special tutelage in the council after graduation." She looked to her parents. "You're sending me away?" "Count yourself lucky." And her mother glided away, frost in her step. Marissa sagged against Chet while accepting her father's hug. Throw up those moths and monsters. Cheer for the story if you loved it. Alrighty. I certainly did. And I only now realized that I now had an extra day to read the first story, and I proceeded to not do that. So I am sorry that I have still not read the story this is a sequel to, but it is a very good sequel because I felt like I could completely understand it without needing the other story.
You're so cute, Jennifer Duffy.
But yeah, so like I guess I'll just start there. And I will say I might have missed your notes if you had notes, but regardless, if you have any questions for me, for the chat, for both, don't hesitate to ask them. Just continuing what I was saying, like, I think that you did the transition very well, because I'm assuming that she has spent the night struggling over this or trying to shift, and dawn hadn't brought clarity that now dawn has dawned and she has lost her chance to shift, and the verdict is happening. And I can, if I'm correct, I got all that just from the context of this story alone without reading the other story. And so that tells me you did a great job. And I think it really works because it's all relevant. Like, you don't go into, any like irrelevant information that won't come up. You immediately go to, shiftless. Okay. Like, we might not know immediately what shiftless means, but you could definitely guess can't shapeshift. And then when you get Lycan, it's like, aha, no werewolf times for Marissa. So you can immediately get like, okay, like, and even if you don't know what shiftless means, you can go less, like, she is minus something. She is, there's something that she wants to have, and she is less that thing. And that is the story. That is what the story is going to be about. And so I think you did a great job of going like, hey, this question is haunting her. That is the question of the entire story. What are we going to do about this? She's struggling over it. There you go. There's the phone. The phone at midnight. She is contemplating it. Her parents are contemplating it, but her parents and Mr. Thornbrake have come up with a judgment for that. And, Dawn hadn't brought any clarity does bring this image of struggle. And I guess maybe part of the reason I'm feeling that way is because I did read a different story from you a while back where there was a character who was like looking into their reflection, and I think they were like wanting to shapeshift but couldn't. I could be wrong about that, but maybe I'm combining that story. Or maybe that was this character at a different time. I don't know. But anyways, it very much gives this image that she has been struggling all night and has gotten no clarity. And she is going to be judged for it, whether she herself has clarity on it or not. And so I think it's a great way to begin. Like I said in part one, I did read the story to my dad, and he was not familiar with what lichen meant, and so that did mean that he didn't really get what exactly was going on. He knew that there was something that she wanted to be able to do, but she couldn't do, but he didn't really get, what was what was truly going on. But I feel like that could very much be a target audience thing, because like I said in part one, I was very surprised that he didn't know what that meant. And so I feel like anybody in your target audience is probably going to know what that word means. So I would not critique that too heavily, because I feel like it's a very common word, and people who like werewolves are probably going to know what that word means. But it's something to note. It's a different perspective that somebody had that is worth talking about, because that does definitely impact your ability to understand and enjoy the story if you didn't get what was going on there. I do really like, I very much enjoy going, look at this Wondrous, as he's talking. Very fun, as he's eating, I mean. Very fun image, very brotherly image that, Sis is potentially gonna be told that she needs to be executed, and he's just eating his potato chips on the couch. I'm just imagining crumbs falling all over him. He's leaning back, weirdly. He's just like, look at this way, you don't have to worry about shedding. Which is very, very fun. And I love that image. I will say that there is a potential worry with that, which is that it could set the tone wrong. Because something that I never really thought, I don't think that much about when I first started this, but as time goes by, I think about it more and more, that the beginning of the story really sets your tone. And so that first sentence and the first few paragraphs really say, okay, what's going on here? What's the story about? And so I could see that potentially setting the tone wrong for this short story, that he's very comedic and the story is not comedic. It's actually very serious things are going on as it progresses. And so that could potentially, even though I love that line, I do wonder if the story would have been better without it, to focus more on the seriousness. I'm a bit torn. I would be curious to hear what you guys thought, if any of you were like, yeah, I kind of thought this was going to be a little bit more comedic. But you do, on the other hand, you do have that first paragraph, which is basically going, hey, there's an internal struggle going on here. And so that paragraph alone might be enough to say, hey, this is a serious story. You're going to get some comedy, but overall, this is about an internal and external conflict that is about being shiftless. Just thoughts. Just thoughts, not a full-on critique or anything, just things I'm thinking about. I like the phrasing of the levity wasn't shared. Very, very much understand her feeling that way. She's like, I want to worry about shedding, though. I want to worry about shedding, not death, And Marissa remained still until the door opened. She jumped up, meeting her father's sympathetic eyes and her mother's dismissive glare. I really like that introduction to them, that, hey, her father is sympathetic, her mother not so much. That is a great way to introduce that. It is, it's not just her mom looked disdainful and her dad looked sympathetic. It's talking about their eyes and saying sympathetic eyes and dismissive glare, I think, really makes that a much more evocative image that I really like. So I guess strangely, one of my biggest critiques for this story is quite simply that you ended up using two names for Errol / Mr. Thornbreak. this would be completely fine in a novel where, like, you know this character and you're familiar already with all the main characters. But we often talk about how in these short stories, 3 is the sweet spot. It tends to be that it's difficult to go over 3 characters in a story. You can do more and it can work, but 3 is kind of what you should stick to make sure that things work. And the thing is, for the most part, even though you have Marissa, Chet, 2 parents, and Errol, so you have 5, even though you have 5 characters, it's very easy to tell who is talking and what is going on for the most part. But I do think that having Mr. Thornbreak have 2 names makes things confusing, because I'm not familiar enough with the characters and the story to understand quickly, oh hey, Mr. Thornbreak is Errol, and I had to read it a few times to fully understand, oh hey, here's what, this is the same dude. And I also think that it kind of takes me out of the third limited perspective a little bit, because we are in Marissa's head. Like, she's the one worrying about being shiftless. And I feel like she would not call... I mean, we see that she does out loud call him Mr. Thornbreak. And he is the head of the Lycan division, and she is, I'm thinking, teenager or younger. And it's not impossible for a teenager to think of an adult by their first name, but it's a little odd. And so, especially since she does call him Mr. Thornbreak, it feels like that's how she'd think of him in her head as well. That she would also think of, hey, Mr. Thornbreak, the head of the Lycan division, in her narration. And so the thing is that you had 5 characters, and it almost completely worked. There was just this one little confusion of using 2 names for one character, and if you had called him Mr. Thornbreak the whole time, I would have been like, wow, you had 5 characters, and it was completely understandable. It's just, when you only have so many words, you do have to be a little more careful about just sticking to one name quite a bit of the time, unless it's, more of like 1 character or 2 characters. Then you could be a little, you could use multiple names. But when you have 5, better to just do one. Hello, Drowning Devil. Welcome. As far as I understand it, your name is Blub in the Discord, and every time I see your name, I think of Sheriff Blubs from Gravity Falls, and I don't know if that's where you got your name, but I have to ask. Anyways, back to the story. Okay, so this description is great. I love it. I think it is, I can really imagine it, and this is like, I don't know exactly how to describe, like, it's a certain type of character, and I really like it. I can really visualize it. The thing is, though, it does take up a lot of words, and it really isn't that important for us to know what he looks like. This is something that we talk about as well, that in these short stories, that usually the first thing to go is physical descriptions, because usually they're not important to what's going on and what's being said. And unfortunately, I do think that that's the case here, and I'll talk about the places where I think the words coulda, shoulda, woulda been used in a little bit, but I think just from a standpoint of, look at this description. Do you like it? I love it. I think it's awesome. I can totally imagine it. I can get a vibe of this character, and now I have questions about the character. I'm going, where did he get those scars? Seems like maybe a different werewolf attacked him. That's interesting. And stuff like that. So I love the description, but I do feel like a lot of words were used on it that could potentially be used in other places. Also, I don't think I mentioned, I do really like Thornbreak as a name. That's a really neat name, and he definitely has like raven imagery. And I guess I guess I originally read it as Thornbeak, so I guess that's why I think of bird imagery for that name, but it's not really a bird image knowing it's break. But it's cool. All I wanted to say is I like that name. Um, and then I like, her, she gulped down her whimper, hating how she trembled. I really like that dialogue tag. That kind of almost feels like a microcosm of her attitude throughout the story, that she's like, I don't like how I'm weak, because I'm not shiftless. I don't like how I'm trembling right now. I want to be strong. And then I do think it's a really interesting little bit of world building here to learn, what happens when a human discovers the supernatural. I'm curious at what trial means. If you're put on trial as if you committed some crime, or if it's something else. There's an ad break. Ad break time. Kitty time.
Yes. Kitty pet. Look at the little feet. Look at the little rabbit feet.
Man, he's really zonked. I feel like usually he'd lift his head and wake up a little bit more. Either that or his tail's twitching a little. Maybe he's mad at me. Maybe he is awake and he's not liking it. Baby. Baby cat. Hey, that was perfectly timed. Gotcha. It's and Drowning Devil says, yep, little fair no though. And then Deathset says, I think of Nemoblub. What is that? Who's a member of my streaming community. Interesting, gotcha. When I originally read that, I thought you were saying that Blub was from your community, but I think you're saying you just think of someone else from your community, which is fun. But oh yeah, so I'm curious what the trial is, what that means, and if they do in fact kill humans for finding out about the supernatural, which makes me wonder why they don't have a more powerful memory erasure, because presumably he says simple memory erasure because it's just like, okay, like you undo the last 5 minutes or undo the last 5 hours, but maybe if it's a bigger thing and maybe they've known about it for years, then it's like that's a little bloop of the memory thing ain't gonna work this time. But very interesting little thing, and I like it. It definitely helps to establish, like, okay, what might be the punishments in store? What's behind door number 3? Is it death? Is it the Grim Reaper? Man, doing this at night puts me in a weird place. Anyways, so I like that's fun from a world building standpoint, and it makes it helps to establish, okay, what could happen. And then, with you, given your age and you being born to a Lycan family, there's only one viable option. It's like, oh, spooky, scary. Yeah, exactly. There's the Men in Black gif. Then it feels very dramatic for sure, and definitely feels like, yeah, your brain could go to death from that. I am curious though if death is if that makes sense, or if it seems like a gross overstatement to you guys in the chat, because I feel like that statement could go either way. I feel like you could arrive at this part in the story and be like, okay, yeah, like the stakes have at least somewhat been established, and one viable option sounds very dramatic, and so it makes sense that she goes death. Or is it like, well, yeah, like he's talked about some stakes, but none of those stakes includes something so drastic as death, and she was born to a Lycan family, so does it seem like she went real far real fast? I'm really curious how you guys ended up reading it. I also do feel like I'm really torn about her emotions in these lines, because in one sense, yeah, if you think that you're gonna get killed, and just because, you know, of something outside of your control, and your parents are gonna be fine with it, yeah, that is a very fair reason to be hysterical. But at the same time, like when I read this part, you know, her dry sockets prickled without producing tears and her vision spotted. I'm kind of imagining that as the beginnings of emotion. Either like, okay, we're beginning to cry, or she's trying to hold back. She's trying not to cry. And so then when we go from either the beginnings of crying or trying not to cry, you know, beginnings of emotion, trying not to show emotion, to shrill and nearly hysterical, it does feel like a bit of a jump. And like I said, it's odd because it makes sense that she would be hysterical. It makes sense that she would make that jump. But at the same time, it does feel a little bit fast. I do feel like I want either more of a transition or a little bit less of an emotion, if that makes sense. And it is really interesting that this idea of, you know, she's born to a Lycan family. Everybody thinks she's going to be a werewolf, and then she comes out human. She's just a normal human, you know. That's very interesting. Well, I'll talk about that in a sec. I do feel like this sentence was a bit awkward. Strong arms wrapping her up from behind, and Errol's heavy hand to her shoulder brought her back. I don't know who the arms belong to. I don't know if it's her dad, her brother, or it's all Errol. I actually forgot that I was tripping a bit on that sentence, so I didn't comment on it, and I didn't provide an option for a better phrasing, but let's see if I can think of something. I mean, I guess part of it is just like, okay, let me look at this. Yeah, so I guess maybe part of it is that I'm expecting it to be strong arms wrapped her up from behind, and Errol's heavy hand fell on her shoulder. But the verb of the sentence is brought her back. That's the point. Oh no. Oh no. I don't know the shortcuts here, so I'm making mistakes. Come join us! Errol's heavy hand to her shoulder brought her back. Amazing. Well, I'm clearly blanking on what the undo button is on the keyboard, so let's see if I can. Well, now I'm gonna undo the wrong thing, but we'll get there. There we go. So I guess maybe it's a combination of, you know, it being a continuous verb instead of like new sentence, subject, verb, and us not knowing who's doing it. I think is what makes it seem awkward to me, but it could just be I could be being too harsh there. Okay, so for the next part here, so this is, I think, the most crucial part of the story, but also the part where, well, I'll just go into it. So when I read, you'll be placed under special tutelage in the council after graduation, nothing about that implies you're sending me away. It just seems like, oh, like, hey, you thought you were gonna die, you're just gonna get extra credit classes. You're just gonna have to go to summer school. Basically, that yeah, you need a special tutor. That's about it. I'm not thinking like, oh yeah, like at minimum you're sending me to boarding school. But the way she's reacting, it seems more like it's more than boarding school. It seems like it's special tutelage is code for something very dark. But I don't have enough info to understand that special tutelage means something really dark, or even very simply, you're sending me away. It, to me, just seems like special tutelage. It just seems like, oh yeah, you're gonna have to go to school over the summer. And so I do feel like this part that is like the punch, probably, you know, the most important part of the story, loses some of that punch, because I'm going, wait, what? What do you mean they're sending you away? And oh, and so when I read this story to my dad, he was saying, I read it in that way that I just read it to you. You're sending me away? And he was like, I think this should be read with a breath of relief, that you're sending me away. I'm not dead. And I was like, no, I don't think that is how it's meant to be read. And of course you can clarify. But I was thinking, because of the title, that would death be preferable, that this is equally bad, if not worse. And I have mixed feelings on that, because I do like it when titles add some context. And so in some ways, that's kind of neat that the title added context that you might not have had the words for. But at the same time, I feel like, especially, talking to my dad, that it's not great to have to rely on that. It's not great to have to rely on the title to give context that the story needs. And so it does feel like this is one of those places where it could use those extra words that you could gain by taking out the physical description, that giving more context on what special tutelage means and why that means she's being sent away, and then her reaction, maybe putting the hysterical here, I don't know, but having more emotion than just looking to her parents, and that if I'm correct, that it is meant to be, hey, this is horrible, like this is as bad if not worse than death. Adding a little bit to that would be helpful. And then there is like a grander thing too, which is that I don't know why that would be worse than death. Like that, that does seem like if death was on the table, which it seems like maybe it was, that she was lucky to only be sent away. And so I do feel like I said, that is a place where that could have used the extra words potentially to go a little bit more into her psyche of, why is this worse than death? Because this is meant to be the big gut punch of the story. All that being said, I do like it. I do I do enjoy that idea of, oh my gosh, you're sending me away, and it definitely makes me curious to read more. I do want to see what goes on if she is sent away, what happens when she's sent away, if she escapes, or if it's not as bad as she thinks it's going to be, if it's worse. I'm very curious to see what goes down because of that. I do really like, her mother glided away, frost in her step. That's such a cool metaphor. I can kind of imagine her like Elsa with the frost, going beneath her feet. That she is so cold, and she's so cold to her own daughter that it almost feels like there's actual frost coming out of her, which I think is beautiful and tragic. And then I like that we have the immediate mirroring of, okay, her mother has frost in her step, but, her father hugs her, which I think is very beautiful. Come to think of it, maybe it could have been a little punchier if you had an image for him as well, that maybe something warm or like fire, that... I mean, I guess the fire of her father's hug would be a little too strong. But maybe there's an image of warmth you could go with that could mirror it even more. But nonetheless, I like that little mirroring, and her just sagging, slumping. Werewolf boot camp. I assume Luna explained what it is, but that is a funny line to come across when I come back. A werewolf boot camp. Okay, so let's go up. Now you're good. You did great. Glad to hear that. She's been berating herself and trying to force a shift. Interesting. Okay, so the other story I read was about Rosalind, who's also shiftless. Interesting. So are they from different families, and are they gonna meet and be buds in the werewolf boot camp? And it says, yeah, I wanted to add some levity with Chet. It's his natural character, and he does work to protect Marissa. I also like a few tonal shifts in my stories, as long as it doesn't majorly conflict overall. That's very fair, and that is a good point. That is something that I don't know if I talk about much on the streams, but something I think, in general, that it is, that for me, my favorite stories have both really dark moments and really light moments, and so it's much harder to do it in these short stories because you only have so much to work with, but that is something that is generally a good idea to go for. Yeah, I knew, so Luna says, Thornbreak is Errol's last name. It's a sign of respect on Marissa's part. Right, I do know that, but like I said, it just, first of all, like, I don't know for sure, but I feel like in general, a kid would think of, the person who has been referred to as Mr. Thornbreak to them and who needs to refer to them that way would think of them in their head that way and not think of them as like, oh yeah, Errol! Oh, hello, Mr. Thornbreak. I feel like they'd be like, okay, there's Mr. Thornbreak. He has the verdict, that kind of thing. And at the end of the day, regardless of the perspective thing, even if that's not the case and she would think of him in his first name, it does still have the issue of just having 5 characters, but for a second it seems like there's 6 because of multiple names, which doesn't... That confusion can be very easily remedied by just keeping it to one name. Marissa is a teenager. She's 17. Gotcha. Luna says trials for, right here, are private as they don't require a jury. There's usually a seer, someone who can read the memories of others. Ooh. Present. Everything proceeds as a usual trial, however. For the memory erasing, it depends on how much information is stored with the person being read. If the person is proved to be much more destructive, then death may be required. Interesting. So now I want to know more about, like, what do you mean it proceeds as a normal trial? Because for a normal trial, it's like, did they do the crime? Did they do the crime? Are we going to have them do the time? And in this case, is it basically going like, did they see too much? And so are we going to have them do the time or do the death because they saw too much? Is that what's going on here? Luna says there was some questioning of the death logic, I guess, from reviews. Even though she was born to a supernatural family, she isn't versed on everything to do with Lycan society. This is because of her age and the fact that the council can't disclose everything about everything to the community. Interesting. Okay, I did not realize that's what given your age meant. Like, I very much thought, yeah, like she's in... she grew up in Lycan society, like the masquerade is broken, she knows everything, she's managed to keep it secret this whole time. Why kill her? She doesn't need to be killed. That's interesting, that there's this element of her, there's more she could learn that could be a problem. Okay, Chet's the one holding her from behind. I don't know if that would help. It might help to just add the Chet's strong arms wrapping her from behind and Errol's heavy hand to her shoulder brought her back. That's sounding better to me. That might have been what I needed. that might have been all I needed. Lena says, okay, tutelage is probably the wrong word. She's going to be trained at the council with others similar to her, and they are sending her away. It means, at least to Marissa, that they don't want her. She feels like an outcast. Interesting. For many communities, especially Lycans, being cast out means a loss of connection and balance. That can be a fate much worse than death, because the pack depends on emotional and physical connection and closeness. And yes, if the person is proven guilty, depending on the crime, their sentence will vary. Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. That even in human society, like, community and connection is a big deal, but in Lycan society, we have humans plus wolf dynamics. It would be even more, hey, like, you don't want to be cast out. Though that does make me interested in the idea of, like, a lone wolf Lycan, going out to be like, all right, leaving my family to form my own pack, you know. Um, but so yeah, that makes sense. And I'm curious what you mean by training. Is it indeed, like boot camp or something worse? Because even training, like, again, that doesn't sound too bad on its own. And I guess training might convey more that she's being sent away, but even if you said special training, I might have thought, okay, summer training, go, for the evening, to go do your camp, and then you come home, that could be a potential option for how I might read that. And then, like, I guess the other question is, there's nothing that seems permanent about that. Like, with either the word tutelage or training, even if it is a boot camp situation, it doesn't seem permanent, like you get to eventually come home. And so that, like, you're sending me away has this very final aspect to it of, like, I will never be able to see you again, which might not be what she means. It might just be like being sent away for even a short amount of time for a lichen, or somebody who's grown up in the lichen community. This is a loss of connection. Even if one day I can be allowed to come back, that connection is still lost or is still broken, and that's still this big problem. But I do think that having that context inside the story would indeed be helpful. I'm trying to think how you could do that in a short amount of words, because that's a more complex idea of this is a loss of connection, I almost wonder, I'm kind of curious if you had said, if you'd done that, she looked to her pack, you're sending me away. I actually think I would have got that immediately. That, oh yeah, this is her pack. This is her people. She does not want to be sent away. That's why, this is such a big deal. I think that one word might have done it. It's possible. Yes, I think that is most everything. How much did we spend on that story? 30 minutes on that one? But I hope that it was also enjoyable, and I hope that it was helpful to you, Luna. I'm out of water because I'm using my dinky cup instead of my big one. So hang on, let me go get some more. I guess I'll put some tunes on for you. The song's not over, but I'm gonna go against my instincts and stop it because I'm back. The training is at, like, extra school combined with an actual job. Aha, you're assuming she does get to come home. I'll say this: her mother has a reputation to uphold. Interesting. So that's why her mom is not being the greatest mom to her, that she is caring about her reputation more than her daughter. Very curious. And so maybe that's the point, is Marissa knows her mom and knows she's not going to get to come back. And from the count yourself lucky, it sounds like she didn't want to just send her away. It sounded like she did want the death option. But thank you so much for submitting, Luna. Let us move on to Joe's story. Feel free to tag Joe. I don't believe he is here. Does anybody know? I asked Joe this, but he didn't answer. Does anybody know? Is this a new Joe, or is this I'm a Haunted Biscuit Joe? Is this new Joe or old Joe? It has some of the flavor of old Joe, and so I wonder if he has returned. You think it's the same Joe. All right. Nice. It's so weird. You're blue on the actual stream chat, and you're pink on the... Well... I don't know. Okay, I don't know which one's the actual stream chat, but I guess you're blue on the actual stream chat and pink on the video stream chat, and that is one of the biggest color discrepancies that I have seen with the names, and it's weird. But anyways, let us go on to Joe's story. Oh my goodness. Obscure Acceptance by Joe. What's his predicament? Asked the director. He played one of D409's games, said Siles. Oh? Mr. Would You Rather? Oh, the director grieved. I remember. His first day, he asked me, would you rather trade your impotence for passing a monthly kidney stone or forego corn-based products? I didn't answer. I was curious of what I couldn't use, though. Most foods, hand soap, cleaning products, and rubbing alcohol. Getting ethanol for rubbing alcohol from corn is a common practice, so it'd be difficult to find alternatives to ethanol creation. There's also the question of whether this affects only you or others in order for you to suffer more, Silas added, which is our current subject's case. What was his? The director asked. Would you rather never have human contact again and never eat cheese, or lose your artistic ambitions? The director was shocked. No! Yes. Who could live without cheese? Pizza would just be a yeasty plate of unmixed ingredients. What would lasagna be without the powerhouse of food? There's no cheese, only mac. His art was more important to him. He's over grieving cheese deprivation, but he does suffer from touch starvation and understimulation. But to never experience human contact again. No texting, phone calls, and video chats. He couldn't if he tried. If he texted, the words would blur. Same with the letters. Phone calls and video calls would play static. If he met anyone, they would be triggered to leave. The only way to get him supplies is to drop them off at random locations where he can find it by someone who doesn't know who they're delivering it to. Can't even meet the mailman. The director rubbed his head. How does he live like that as an artist? His writings get published under a fake name and an impersonator. He's fulfilled in finishing his project, but suffers from never knowing its success or failure. He'll die the most obscure death as an absentee ghostwriter. Throw those moths and monsters. Cheer for the story if you loved it. So if you want to unlock that fourth story, I don't know where we are. I saw 40% and 80%. But if you want to unlock the fourth story, then make sure you cheer during my my thoughts, my praise and critique. Otherwise, this will be where we are. Oh, 30%. I heard 40 and 80, but it's 30. All right. Okie dokie. This is a really interesting story and definitely gets you thinking for sure. That is kind of the point of Would You Rather, is it makes you contemplate these horrible hypothetical scenarios, but in this case, those hypothetical scenarios have the very real possibility of becoming very real, which makes them so much more horrible. And it definitely, makes me think about that situation. And I don't know if you were going for the challenge, but that artistic ambitions thing, once again, for us writers, I think gets you really thinking, like, what would you say? What would you rather in that situation? Because dang, that is a real difficult would you rather.
Hello, kitty. Stretch a kitty.
And so it's Nature's Guardian is the fourth story.
Oh, hacky.
Oh, sorry. Gonna get a few background hacks. So yeah, the story it really gets you thinking, and it's really fun and different. But if you are the same Joe, I feel like a lot of your stories, oh baby, a lot of your stories fit under the category of fun and different and creative. And so I like the direction that you decided to go.
Baby. Oh, poor baby.
Do you want me to mute or do you want me to keep talking? Maybe slowing down. Let's see. Where do I want to start? So I will note that I do have some pretty heavy critiques for this story because I ended up getting very, very lost in this story. And I usually start at the beginning, and that's actually the main place that led to my confusion. So I think I'm going to start with that critique. So now that, as usual, I got help from a friend, but now that I got help from a friend, I think I understand what's going on. That this is kind of an SCP situation, that they're going, hey, he played one of D409's games, that's a reference to, like, this is a case, this is a monster, And then it's like, okay, which monster is that? Oh, it's Mr. Would You Rather, that could happen with SCPs, that it'd be like, oh, like SCP number. Which one is that? It's this thing, this monster. Oh yeah, I love that one. I think that's what's going on. But I have not read any SCPs or interacted with SCPs, and so I feel like those who have and do understand that format will likely get what's going on, though of course please feel free to offer your input in the chat, but I'm not. And so here is what happened to me as I read the beginning of the story. What's his predicament? Predicament does not read as he has had this horrible life-altering curse, like life almost ending, like the life you knew is over, curse put on him. Predicament doesn't sound like that. It sounds like he's in a little bit of a pickle, and it kind of reads like, what's Joe moping about over there? What's Patrick moping about in the corner? Not, Patrick just had his life, completely ruined. He's in shambles now. And so I do, let's see. Well, I guess we'll come back to the different options. And then we have Ask the Director. Director can be a lot of different things. A director can be a director in a movie. It can be a director in a play. It can be a director of a branch of an office, which, I think this is. But that word doesn't really give us enough context to understand, oh, hey, like, this is the supernatural creatures division that he is directing. And you could think, that this is, at first, that this is like a movie or something. And then he played one of D409's games. Okay. I guess I'll do the whole section. So he played one of D409's games, said Siles. Who? Mr. Would You Rather. So when I first read this, I just felt very lost. The numbers already confused me, and then Mr. Would You Rather ended up confusing me more. But there's also this thing where, thinking about it more deeply, being the reader of these stories has ruined my ability to properly see this as a clue. I feel like I said, especially if you are familiar with SCPs, you can look at that and go, oh, this is a case. That's not a name. That is they're referring to basically a case that they are studying, a monster and stuff like that. But in my experience with these stories, D409 could be a lot of things. D409 could be an alien, could be a robot, could be Joe from accounting, could be Patrick. Joe is my go-to, your average Joe name, but your name is Joe, so I feel like I should pick another name. But D409 can mean a lot of things, and it doesn't immediately call to mind, oh hey, we are investigating a monster, we are investigating a case, and we need to pull that case, out of your mind. I think the who also is a hindrance to this, because it makes me think, oh hey, D409, that's a name. And then Mr. Would You Rather is its own thing. I think it would really help if you had said, which one is that? Like I was saying earlier, he played one of D409's games. Which one is D409? Mr. Would You Rather. I think I would have been able to much better go, oh, okay, this isn't just a person's name and stuff like that. It is a case. It is something that they are investigating in that sort of way. I think I'll come back. Well, yeah, I think I'll come back to the other thing that's so sad. But so then we go to so I think that the biggest offender for why I got very lost when I read this story is quite simply the phrase, his first day. Because his first day, I actually still, knowing, oh, hey, Mr. Would You Rather is a monster. Or, at least a superpowered individual. His first day doesn't read as any of that. It doesn't read as, oh, hey, we're investigating, this monster who put this horrible curse on this person. His first day reads like his first day at the office. And so I very much thought when I first read it that we were in an office. And here's basically what happened. That I read this as, what's his predicament? Like I said, basically, what's Patrick over there moping about? He played one of D409's games. Don't really know what D409's all about, but all right. Who? Mr. Would You Rather. And when I read this, I think that it's basically a nickname, oh yeah, remember, Mr. Mouth Breather over there? Remember, Mr. Talks a Lot? Remember, Mr. Cheese Lover? Remember Mr. Smells Like Cheese? Something like that. It's just a derogatory nickname. Remember Mr. Would You Rather? Yeah, here's Jerry asking his would you rather questions that nobody cares about, nobody wants to answer. I don't get the image from that, hey, that's a monster. It's basically like the toy maker from Doctor Who, that Mr. Would You Rather is like that. It's a moniker that they give him. He's the one who asks would you rather questions, and they can become real if you answer them. And so I needed a lot more from that. And the other thing is that, okay, his first day he asked me, would you rather? And then he says, I didn't answer. That is a weighty statement. That is not treated as a weighty statement. Because I know now that I understand what's going on, I know that the reason that it didn't really happen to him is because he didn't answer. But that was very possible that could have happened. But especially because I'm getting this impression that, hey, this seems like a casual office thing. It's just an annoying guy who likes to ask would you rather questions. When you say, I didn't answer, I just think he's he's annoying. I don't want to answer. I don't think of it as weighty in any way. And so when I got to, hey, it actually happened, it was real, I was really confused and really lost. And the thing is, I feel like there's so many very tiny things that you could do in the beginning to fix that, to make it a lot easier to understand. So the first one I mentioned was, which one is that? And that would help. Another thing that you could do is you could change predicament. So, well, that's kind of different, but I mean, I guess you could say, so how is his life ruined? You know, or what question ruined his life, or something like that. So there's actually two things that are going on here, which is that, one, you could just pick a different word than predicament that's a little more weighty, so that I got more of that, oh, hey, this is not just, you know, somebody in a pickle. You know, this is a life-altering thing that just happened. So you could just pick a different word. But another thing you could do is you could add even more context by saying something like, what question was posed to him? Or what question ruined his life? Something like that. And we could go, oh, okay, so this is about questions, and questions actually having consequences. That would immediately give me some great context for the story. The next thing you could do is you could say, instead of just P, you could do something like, poor bastard played one of D409's games. You don't have to. I think you could get the context you need without adding that, but that's another potential option to show the weight of this, that it's not just, you know, it's not just a little pickle. It's like, oh, that poor man, you know, he played one of D409's games. And then a similar thing here, that instead of just going, oh, you know, the director grieved, I don't really know why he's grieving. I don't know. That's not enough, you know, to tell me what the deal is. And then especially when he goes on to, I remember his first day, seems very casual and gentle. And so if you said something like, oh, that guy, I hate him. Yeah, I remember his first day. Or you could do something like, oh yeah, Mr. Would You Rather, he's a crafty one. I had something, I think I did, but now it's gone. But something to convey, hey, he's a crafty monster. Like, he's not just, he's something that we're studying. It's not just like, oh, you know, I remember Patrick from accounting on his first date asking those would you rather questions. You know, it's, oh yeah, he's a crafty one. You know, then I think that would help me go, you know, oh, this is like about a monster, not just Joe from accounting. As I said, I think you could remove his first day. That would do a world of help if you remove that, like, you know, I remember when he asked me a would you rather question. And then something that would be very weighty, very helpful, is if you said something like, luckily I had the wherewithal not to answer. That instead of just saying, oh, I didn't answer, like it's casual and normal and like any would you rather game where you can just be annoyed and walk away. It's, oh, thank God I didn't answer. You know, like, oh, something bad would have happened if I had answered, and you put the weight on I didn't answer. That would help a lot. I'm also, this is not that big a deal, but it's not really games that he's playing. He plays one game, Would You Rather. And so that kind of, I think, also informed me saying, what was the question posed to him, you know, that you could, you know, or I guess you could, you know, what question? Well, I guess the point is that the director didn't know that it was Mr. Would You Rather at first. So I guess that first line I suggested would not work. So I guess something different you could do for that first line that would be helpful in a different way is you could say, what's this case? Immediately we know, hey, this is a case. This is not us looking at Patrick and going, oh, what's Patrick moping about? It's, you know, it's a case, you know, that we're investigating. Another thing that you could do is, oh, I had it. What was it? Say something about like a subject that's, you know, what's subject. I don't know if adding more numbers would help or hurt, but you're like, what's subject 209's predicament? I'd immediately go, oh, okay, scientist case. You know, we're thinking we're not in the office, kind of thing. But going back to what I was saying about the games, you could say he answered one of D409's questions. And then that also would help because I would know, aha, he answered one of the questions. And then that would prime me to go, I didn't answer. And then I go, aha, I see, you said before he answered. So this is a key thing. This character did not answer. So I'm also wondering here, so would you rather trade your impotence for passing a monthly kidney stone or forego corn-based products? Am I understanding that question? That it's, would you rather, so you are impotent, and if I'm correct, that means like you can't have children, right? So you, somehow, Mr. Would You Rather knows that he can't have children. We'll come back to that, but would you rather trade the fact that you can't have children for passing a monthly kidney stone? So, okay, something good, something we want, and something bad. Or forego corn-based products, which is only bad. You don't get to trade your impotence. You're still impotent. You just have to forego corn-based products. Why would you choose that? Or is it just like, the kidney stones are so bad that if you only have those two options, you would choose to just suddenly lose corn. Lose corn in your life. Which is indeed a tragic thing. I'm assuming that that you looked up, what all is based in corn. That is way more than I thought, would be corn-based. I mean, I feel like most foods is quite the statement, because I feel like there's plenty of foods that are not corn or corn-based. So I'm not sure what that's about, but nonetheless, very, very interesting little aside. That's kind of fun, that looking into it, it's like, oh, not that much is made from corn, and then he actually did the research and is like, no, actually a lot is made from corn. And so that's kind of fun and interesting, and does feel like, something that someone might do for a Would You Rather game, that it's like, how bad would that be? And then you go on a rabbit trail and look it up with your friends. So that's fun. But what I was saying here is, it seems odd that it's good and bad and bad. Most Would You Rather questions that I have heard asked are either bad and bad, good and good, or good and bad and good and bad. Not good and bad and bad. So a little bit odd there. And it's also quite the thing to throw in there, that this character is impotent, and that that Mr. Would You Rather knows about it. I guess it does tell us, Mr. Would You Rather can pry into your secrets, which makes him more scary and monstrous. But I feel like that line would have worked a little bit better for me as, would you rather pass a monthly kidney stone or forego corn-based products? I feel like that would follow a bit better for me personally, because it's bad and bad, right? Which bad is more bad to you? I also wasn't sure. This is spelled like this, but I wasn't sure if it was something special and alien, and so I left it as it was. Anyways, I'm also curious. This isn't really that big a deal, but it's just something to think about with this story. There's also the question of whether this affects only you or others in order for you to suffer more. Does that mean just effects in general? In which case, yeah, like like people, it affects others because people are triggered to leave, and you can't know where you're dropping the food off to and stuff. Or is it saying the curse itself affects others? Because like that would kind of imply that if you try to text this guy, your phone blurs, which I guess could be possible. Come to think of it. So my question was going to be like, oh, it doesn't sound like the curse affects others. It just, so I'll use the corn because the corn's a better example. The corn would be either he can never, somehow, can't ever interact with corn-based products, and it's just him. Or all corn-based products are suddenly zapped from the planet Earth. Those are two very different things. And so I'm curious if that's like what you were meaning there with that line. And if that is the case, does the curse, the artistic ambitions curse, does that affect others in the curse way? Or is it just, oh yeah, like because he can't talk to people, it affects people, but not in the curse way, if that makes sense. I feel like as I'm saying that part, that one got maybe too much into the weeds. But anyways. So then I also had a very similar question here, which is, would you rather never have human contact again and never eat cheese, or lose your artistic ambitions? So in this case, it's 2 bads versus 1 bad. And maybe that's the point. It does work a little bit better for this one, I think, because it's basically going 2 bads and 1 really bad. But the thing is, never have human contact again is really, really bad. And so I feel like, actually, like, to me personally, again, it would be more powerful to go, would you rather never have human contact again or lose your artistic ambitions? That would be a bit punchier to me. It works as it is. Like I said, it just adds that question. And what was I gonna say? It does show how important his artistic ambitions are to him, that he is willing to take the 2 bads, and one of them is really bad for another really bad thing. I do really like the cheese tangent. I do think that is very, very fun. I do really like there's no cheese, there's only mac. I do feel like it would make a little more sense as there wouldn't be any cheese, only mac. But that's a nitpicky thing. So very, very cute there. Very, very, very fun. Not so cute for Patrick in the corner, but a fun little line that I like how you wrote that. And then I like the transition to, here's the little tangent about cheese, and then starts more important to him. And definitely feels like something I feel like a lot of us can relate to. And you're like, yeah, art, so important to me. And then I like, he's over grieving the cheese deprivation. He grieved for a bit. He's over it now. That's fun. But he does suffer from touch starvation and understimulation. So I'm really torn on this, because when I first read this, my first thought is like, is that really all he'd suffer from? Like, never being able to contact another human being in any sort of way. Like, surely, like, that would do so much worse to you than just touch starvation and understimulation. Like, we are social creatures. We really need contact from other people. But the thing is that there are hermits that do exist. There are people who go into the woods by themselves and hang out by themselves for decades sometimes. And so presumably they don't have human contact. So is that maybe, like, am I overemphasizing what a big deal that is? Because that feels like that shouldn't be a thing. It feels like that shouldn't be possible for somebody to just go out into the woods and be okay by themselves. Or are they all not okay? But yeah, so I'm really torn on that. And in one sense, like, my initial thought of the story was like, this feels way worse than you're giving it credit for. But at the same time, is that all that the hermits out in the woods suffer from in real life? I'm not sure. I really like the image of, like, the text words blurring. I'm just imagining almost like there's rain on it, like rain on a window, when the texts go through. So horrible situation, but pretty image. I like, again, horrible but pretty. I like the idea of, phone calls and video calls playing static. I can totally imagine him picking up the phone and it just, he is desperately wanting to hear someone's voice and he just hears static. Pretty horrifying. And then it is kind of funny. This one is a little bit funny. The idea of somebody's like, oh, hey, like random stranger, I need to go, just randomly having the very strong feeling that you need to leave. That does bring up a question, though, which means he can talk to people. They just, because if someone's triggered to leave, I guess it depends on your definition of that, but I think of that as what I just said, of like, oh, hey, how's it going? Actually, I need to get going. And so that actually I need to get going, that is human contact. And so that does seem like maybe there's a little bit of a loophole in the curse that he can run up to people and say something to them. They'll leave, but they'll be triggered to leave, but he can talk to them for a brief second. I'm also, this is another thing that feels like it's maybe a bigger deal than you're thinking it is. But again, thinking about the hermits in the woods making their own food, out of the woods. But what was I gonna say? That it basically means that there needs to be people like the director and Siles who know that he exists and are like, we need to feed him. We need to feed Patrick. And send him the supplies, because if there aren't people that know that he exists and isn't, his fake, his impersonator, homeboy's not gonna get his food unless he makes his own food in his garden. And then it's more horror and sadness, knowing that he can't even put his name on his writings, that he has his artistic ambitions, but he can't even, go under his real name. And an impersonator has to show up at his signings and stuff. And so it's like, yeah, you had your artistic ambitions, but you can't share them with anyone. And then he's fulfilled finishing his project, but suffers never knowing its success or failure. So first of all, there's its own horror in the line of he's fulfilled finishing it. Like, he's fulfilled his artistic ambitions. He's done. Now he has a life to live, and he can't talk to anybody. Is he gonna write more stuff, or does he feel like he's done and that he's fulfilled his ambitions? And then there's the horror of never knowing its success or failure, that like you fulfilled your ambitions. And I guess going back to Shinny's story, maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe it doesn't matter what other people thought. Maybe it only matters being a success to himself, which would be even more important if you can never talk to anybody. But that is another layer to the horror, where it's like, yeah, you can fulfill your artistic ambitions, but never know. But again, I guess that does bring up the loophole again, which is he could go to the newspaper stand and grab the newspaper. The newspaper guy there is gonna try to leave, but he can walk up to him. Kind of thing. I don't know if that means that, if the curse means that the newspaper would blur too, so maybe that is what that means. And then I like the kind of, I don't know if it was meant to be a play or on the words, on the phrase of ghostwriter or not, but I like that it's like, yeah, he is a ghostwriter and literally a ghost. Not quite literally, because we do have literal ghosts in this writing group, but he as a person can never be known or seen, and so he's a ghost in that way. So at the end of the day, I guess the other thing I was gonna say is that I love the humor. I love the cheese. I love the corn. All fun stuff. All really like captivating stuff. But they also are the parts that are the least relevant to what's going on. And so potentially, I think that you could do what I was suggesting. Changing this word and saying stuff like, "Oh, luckily I had the wherewithal not to answer." Don't add too many words, so I don't feel like you'd have to cut so much to get the context that you needed to not confuse the audience. But at the end of the day, you could cut both the corn conversation and the cheese conversation and use those words a little more seriously to better convey the idea. It's a thought. I don't want to lose either conversation because they're my favorite parts of the story, but it's something I did have to mention, that it's something to consider, when you do write a story like this. That at the end of the day, so I really liked the concept of the story. I think it was really creative, really fun. But there were some things in the execution that left me quite lost in it. So I hope that's helpful. Let's see what folks have been saying. It's probably not manually choosing a display color in chat. Oh, I see. So like you manually chose red, and so you will show up as red in my chat as well. Interesting. Oh, there's an ad now. I don't have a kitty behind me anymore to show. I have a kitty next to me. What do you think, Bella? I could... no, she's too far away. Kitty Bella. Will Smith has just been staring at me from the not-so-private chat most of the time. Diddle-do. Oh yeah, well, I shouldn't say this during the ad. I'm trying to find stuff to say and then thinking of saying important stuff. Alright, I am back. So, where'd it go? I'm not seeing a blessing here, Dis had said. I guess the blessing is that you could keep your artistic ambitions, right? That it's like, oh... And maybe that's why you did it the way that you did it. Maybe that's why you had trade your impotence for passing him up the kidney stone. Trade your impotence, that would be the blessing. And then in this case, it's you get to keep your ambitions. It's basically you have to choose. And poor bastard didn't know that he didn't have to choose and didn't know that he didn't have to answer. But you have to choose between two evils, and so it's basically picking the better of the evils, that I guess. But does that count as a blessing? Is definitely worth asking. That a blessing is usually not, the lesser of evils, but blessing's a very versatile word, so maybe it could be. That is straight says there's a lot of corn-based products. Once you take corn syrup into account, you're giving up a lot of sweets and soft drinks. Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense for sure. And improving your health. I don't know what you're referring there. I assume the corn. What would be lethal? Not having cheese, not having corn, something else. Oh, you're talking about the human contact thing. That's because you say here we need contact with others as a social species. That was one of the thoughts I had, that I was like, wouldn't that kill you not to be able to have contact with any other human being ever? But like I said, I think there are people who haven't had human contact, and I don't know if all of them either die out in the woods or need to come back to society. I'm not sure about that. And if they do die, I don't know if it's from, the lack of social interaction. But it is definitely a thought I had as well. Okay, so that is what we got. that is what we have unlocked. It has been a lovely time, at least for me. I hope that you have enjoyed it. I think I got to say so much more and so much and talk so much. Here I am saying, oh yeah, I gotta talk good, and I'm not talking so good. But yeah, I think that I had so much more to say, and hopefully it was, richer than it would have been if I had done it on Saturday. So thank you for allowing me to do this and to do this. to separate the stream into two, and I hope that you enjoyed it. And hello, folks in the VOD. I know that there's plenty of folks who cannot make it to these nighttime streams, so I'm grateful for everybody who could. And I am grateful for everyone who watches the VOD, and feel free to, leave a comment or talk about it in the video discussion if you want to share your own input. I thought that I did have, and I think I have the energy for it. I'm definitely tired, but as you can tell from the talk good stuff. But if folks are still here, I did have a thought, which is we have a unique situation here. Documancer did a little rewrite of their story, and so I'm curious, would that be something you guys might want to check out here on the stream? Because we do have a unique situation where spreading it into two means that she had time to post that. So we could take a look at that and see if we like it. I have read it. I did like it. But I don't know if that's it's a weird situation, and so I don't know if that would be unfair in some way, or if you're just tired and want to go to bed. Either way, I'll guess give it a minute for folks to respond, and if nobody responds, I'll assume everybody's going to bed. This is up to you. Fair enough.
Kitty. Bella.
I don't know if you heard that. Her head's shaking like a little rattle. Well, I'll start heading over there. While I'm waiting for it to see if anybody else responds. Excuse me. Oh yeah, actually I didn't think about this. This is a question of if we have time for this, but in Documancer's notes, she said, toastiness medium, I have no trouble adding material, it's just knowing what to cut. And I'd have to check to be sure, but I assume that means that this longer version, or this new version, is longer. And so that is something that we could do as well, is that I could work on trying to help cut it down, because like I said, I do think it's better. And so we could try and do that. We could try and do kind of a combination of the stream, the story surgery stream, which could be fun. If nobody objects by the time I get it ready to go, I'll just go through with it, because I think it's fun. I think this would be fun to do, especially because we have these strange circumstances. Might as well use them. Might as well do something with them. Oh, I guess I can keep that.
Okie dokie.
Pressed for time. Prompt 199 Revisited by Documancer. It's been a week since I've regenerated my arm with that damn lunar energy. I want to use that power, but I gotta ration it. The toll isn't worth the payoff. Now I'm in Reno during business hours on Tuesday, and people suck. Music bounces against the lobby's walls like a pinball machine. The business card in my palm crumbles to my grip as the leather jacket-wearing receptionist explains that Penelope Wells is booked until next month. 1. Her name is now. 2. I don't have until next month. I have 7 minutes, and they aren't in heaven. Michael Bublé proclaims that's life. On the left of her desk is where I need to be, the elevator. I could tap into that power and already be in Nell's office, but my liver might pop out onto the floor and ruin the carpet. Maybe I shouldn't. I'm an old friend. She'll clear her schedule.
Sure. Nick, was it?
Her voice reminds me of Minnie Mouse. I hate Minnie Mouse. Nicholas. And she rolls her eyes.
Right, Nick. We're all old friends of Penelope Wells. We're also her sister, her dentist, and her estranged uncle.
But she points her pen towards the door. It squeaks open, followed by chain-clicking leather boots. 0. This could get ugly, miss. The miss stares wide as she thinks I put a threat to her life. She tried to press something on her desk. She tries to press something on her desk, but misses. A failed attempt at calling security. Then the hairs on my neck bristle. My knuckle sandwich wants to collide with me, but I'm faster. I face him, catch the wrist, and direct momentum to the floor. One of my stalker's goons. The miss jumps from her seat and leans. The guy groans.
I'll call security.
And I need Nell. I don't need to peruse this guy's thoughts to know he wants my bounty from that stalker freak. He'll just keep coming back until the deed is done. Don't bother. Katy Perry sings about cherry chapstick as I take a deep breath. Maybe if I concentrate on my gut, the moon will be more forgiving. I still don't know how all this shit works. Skirting the details, I have this ability. Even with the sun out, I tap into that source and focus it onto the carpet. I know it's working because my gut writhes. A ring of silver rips through the carpet. That silver wormhole will take this chump somewhere on this plane. Maybe Hawaii, maybe Pluto. I toss the goon in and close the gap before my stomach turns itself inside out. Nell always calls it a blessing in disguise. I call it my taxes. The phone rings. On the 3rd ring, the receptionist answers.
Hi. Hello? Oh, Miss Wells. Yes, your next appointment shall be...
She pauses, then glares at me.
Who? Nick? But Miss Wells...
The receptionist nods and hangs up.
Miss Wells will see you on the 3rd floor, Nicholas.
I approach the elevator and press the button with my elbow. The most satisfying ding chimes. And throw up those monsters. Dang it. Cheer for the story if you loved it. Okie dokie. So the biggest star of this edit, I think, is the lunar energy. It is much better introduced here. I feel like I can get what's going on because that has been introduced, and not only that, it shows the prompt. So that, I think, is the absolute best intro. And I think you did a great job of fixing those issues I said that were from the other story, that you took out the niece thing, you took out the good elbow thing. I think that helped a lot, and this actually works for me, saying, I've regenerated my arm, which is from the other story. That works for me because of this, because it introduces something that is important to the story. And then, we set up right at the beginning, hey, I want to use it, but I have this power, I want to use it, but it's got a toll and it's not worth it. So that's great. I really like this image too. This is a fantastic image. Music bounces against the lobby's walls like a pinball machine. I think goes along with what I was talking about of like how it feels in movies and stuff. I don't know how I feel about the, I think that in the other version, I guess I could see. On some speakers, yeah. That I don't know how I feel about the speakers not being mentioned, but I do like your new explanation of the music. I do think it works. I think you cut some stuff and in like the conversation, I believe. I guess not. Interesting. Um, well, it works as it is. And then I really liked this mention. I really liked that you got to mention I could already be in her office, but I choose not to. You know, I choose. And you know, my liver might pop out on the floor and ruin her carpet. That's fun. I mean, not fun for him, but a nice way to just a fun way to describe it for us readers. It is. There is still this question of why, like, what exactly is the cost? Is it killing him? Does it just hurt for a little bit? There is still a question of that cost, but I do think that I can much more easily get behind that. Yeah, there is a cost going on here for sure. I'm going to sit down. Come on. I don't know why. I am holding my finger in the same position. I don't know why it's stopping and starting. And then the Nicholas does stand out a little more with when her name is Nell. I'm a little torn on that because it seems a little awkward to me, but I don't know exactly why.
Oh, hi, kitty.
But I do think it's clearer. I do think that it helps. I guess maybe part of it is that Nell is very clearly a nickname. And so her name is Nell is like, well, that's her nickname that you call her and you think of her as, but that's not her name. You know, I think is maybe why it feels awkward. I don't know if something like she hates being called Penelope or something like that could work, but I don't really know what exactly the situation is, and if I did, I could offer better suggestions for what to replace it with, but as is, that's the only thought I have, is that it isn't her name, it's her nickname. But at the same time, I do think it's much clearer than the italics, and I do think that it makes the Nicholas stand out more because he does seem to have a name thing. That he's like, I'm not Nick, I'm Nicholas. She's not Penelope, she's Nell. And it's kind of interesting that they're the opposites. That for him, it's don't call me by a nickname, and for her, it's only call her by a nickname. This is great. I love the chain clicking leather boots. You did it. You kept it inside his head and kept that perspective that you did such a great job on. But you added more so that, like, now I know, yeah, it's not just the wind, and now I know it's probably not security. And then we have Zero. That works too. That's great. There is still, I can't remember if I mentioned this properly before, but this conversation would not take 7 minutes. And I guess maybe it's saying, like, the walk took part of those 7 minutes, but I read the conversation and it took, less than a minute. And so there is still a little bit of awkwardness to it going from, oh, hey, 7 minutes, and then less than a minute passes and 0. But I do think that 0 does work to show, oh, hey, that's what I was waiting for. That's what I was counting down to, those chain-clicking leather boots. I do like the clarification of she thinks I have put a threat to her life, but I don't think it's necessary, and once I go into the word count thing, I will probably cut that. Because, like, that one was not, I did think that this could get ugly was meaning, like, he was gonna fight security, and he was gonna fight the verdict so that he can't go up. He's gonna fight to go up. But it can, I think it's a bit clearer that here, I mean, I don't know how I'd feel if I hadn't read the other story, but I do think it's clear that he means I'm gonna fight this guy. Nonetheless, it is helpful to have that little bit of clarification. Not necessarily necessary, because that line could make her stare wide for a plethora of different reasons, all of which make sense. Yeah. And then I like this clarification too, but I can't remember if I mentioned it before that my issue with this wasn't that it was unclear what she was trying to do. It was everything else surrounding it made it confusing. And the other issue is, for two reasons, why would she miss? Reason one, the button for security is usually under your desk, not on your desk. And reason two, it's her desk. She'd be very familiar with where that button is. And so there's no like nothing that seems to be stopping her, from being able to hit it. Nobody punches her, nobody hits her. And so I don't really know why she misses. So my issue with that line was less about not knowing what she was trying to do and more about everything surrounding it and why does she miss, kind of thing. This is great. Perfect. Like I like that one of my stalker's goons. That is great. Super helpful. Exactly the context I needed. And then now I need Nell works, now that you've said that her name is Nell very clearly. I do like the, I don't need to peruse this guy's thoughts, showing even more power that this lunar energy has. And then to know he wants my bounty from that stalker freak. I assume this means he wants, the money, from giving me over to the stalker. Great. More context. Love that. Interestingly, the cherry chapstick works better for me this time. And I don't know why. I don't know. Did you move it? Where was it before? I guess it was just the action before it, that, okay, the silver dissolves in the carpet, I grip my stomach and writhe. Katy Perry sings about cherry chapstick. Feels like, okay, like, kind of, end of, like, action, I guess, and then the new action is a totally different thing, I guess is maybe what made it stand out. But here it's in the middle. Here it's the background, it's the atmosphere, and so that works a lot better for me, instead of at the end that it's as a new and different thing. It's just, okay, here's your atmosphere. Katy Perry's singing about cherry chapstick and I'm doing some magic. I like maybe if I concentrate on my gut, the moon will be more forgiving. I still don't know how all this shit works. Great character perspective. Starting the details, I have this ability, even with the sun out, to tap into the source, focus on the carpet. Great. I know it's working because my gut rides. Great. Showing the connection between the two. Ring of silver rips through the carpet. Fantastic. Love that. The silver wormhole will take this chump somewhere on this plane, maybe Hawaii, maybe Pluto. Mwah! Amazing. Great line. Very clear. Add some humor in there too. Love it. Toss the goon in, close the gap before my stomach turns itself inside out. That works. Nell always calls it a blessing in disguise. I call it my taxes. So you were a lot clearer about the prompt in this story, and I do think that the prompt is there without that line, but that adds some more clarity to it. I don't know exactly what the comparison to taxes is. I'm guessing he's saying, like, this is, I don't know, because with taxes I don't really see as a blessing in disguise. I see it as like, yeah, this is a negative thing that you just have to do. I guess the positive would be like helping out the country, giving money to the country. But I don't really know how that image works here. That it just conjures the image of like, oh, it has a cost and it's not the funnest thing, but there is a blessing to it that I don't really see in Texas. And then you took my advice and you had Miss Wells be like, okay, send Nick up. So that was fun. I like that. I feel like it could be, I feel like you could describe it in, how do I describe this? Because there is a slight confusion that I had with who Nick, because I thought she was like didn't know who Nick was, like who Nick, huh? But what she's saying is, send who up? Nick? Like this guy? So oh, Kitty. So I do, I do like it. I do prefer it to the other version. But I wonder if there would be a way to describe that wouldn't have that slight moment of confusion. And then I don't think this was the last line before, but I really like that as the last line. Oh yeah, there was at what cost? Yeah, I love this as the last line, just going with, the most satisfying ding chimes. He has had his victory. He has got to the elevator where he wanted to go. That is a great place to end the story. Very punchy. I'm just checking how many words you have to see if you did get to 350 or if you need to cut it. And I just realized that I think in this version I don't have the word count, so let me no stop it. Yeah. Word counter. Make you smaller. Here we go. Go back. Oh, wait, no. Go back. Go here. Go there. Go everywhere. There we go. Okay. Okay, jokey. Oh my, it is a lot more than 350. It's 5:35. So we'll see how much I can do before we go to bed. I can crack my knuckles, but they're not in cracking mode right now. But we can cut out all the tags and stuff that got added. Okay, so I'm probably going to be a bit silent here. I'm just going to look over it and start doing some stuff. I might not worry about the character. Well, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. So I guess you could first of all take off this, because I gotta ration it. Does imply that there is a toll. There is something wrong. And he is going to talk about the toll later, so I don't think we need to know the toll right away. We can take that out. This is something I could take out, but I'll wait to take it out. So I could tap into that power. I could use that power. Okay, yeah, that is left. Oh yeah, I would have seen it if it. I could use that power. I could use that power. And already been in Nell's office. Oh yeah, he does say Nell here. Okay, so actually I am going to take that out, because as long as he says, well, I guess I did get confused when I read it, when he said, I need Nell. So that is a question of if it would work if I take it out. But I feel like it might, because number one, you say Nell's office, and well, three things actually. One, this is the first introduction of well, no, it's not. It says Penelope Wells here. Okay. So, but I think this is a lot clearer, going, okay, Penelope Wells is booked till next month, and then going, I can use that power to be in Nell's office. I think it's much clearer. Oh, hey, Nell is Penelope. Penelope's office is where I'm trying to get to be. And so if I say, I could use that power and be in Nell's office, I think that would be clear. It's just the nebulousness of I need Nell paired with it being at the end of the story that I think was didn't work so well. So let's try and cut that out. Yeah, and that, I like the flow of that a lot more. I do still like the original flow of, she's booked until next month. I don't have next month. I have 7 minutes. That's great. You could even, let's see, to take out a word, you could say portal into. I don't know if he'd talk like that, but you could use that power, portal into Null's office, but my liver might pop onto the floor. I could take this out, but it's fun, so I'll leave it for now. And I'll take out the maybe and just say I shouldn't. And then, yeah, I'll take this part out, as I talked about. Tries. And I'll take this part out as well. I might take out the whole thing, or move her line earlier. We'll come back to that. You can take all of this out. We don't actually need this part. I don't think it was in your original, if I remember. I think we can take this part out. It's just helpful. We can potentially take this part out too, but I like it, so I'll wait. I like this, but I think we can take it out. There's a lot of words here, but they're important words. I think I'm gonna take this part out. It works, but it's not necessary. Because it's very clear in this version that he has this power, and this power has a cost. And it has good and bad. I guess, you could take out this part about the appointment. You could just go, oh, Miss Wells. It's not working in this version, but dash. Yeah. Oh, Miss Wells. Who? Nick? Yeah, I think that would work a little bit better. Okay, time to do round 2. 432. Pretty good. We're getting there. This little insight into me. This is good to me, but when I hit the 400s, when I hit 432, I'm like, all right, it's manageable. All right. You don't need to say this, but I don't really know how to introduce the lunar energy in line 1 without it. So I'm gonna keep it, at least until I can puzzle out something else. I could take this out, but I think I'll start with other stuff first. I guess you can take out in my palm. And it would be because we have not been introduced to it. A business card crumbles to my crib. That sounds kind of awkward, though. I don't know. I'll leave it for now. We don't need to know that she's leather jacket wearing, so I could take that out, but is there... Can I do formatting in this? I don't know that I can, but I would like underline the things that I could take out. I think I'll take this out if I'm keeping the pinball machine. I guess we can just say pop out and ruin her carpet. Oh yeah, and you added the roll of your eyes. I didn't even notice that. That's great. I think I'm going to take this out. I guess you could just do it like this. You did say one of the stalker's goons, so I guess we don't need to know that that there's a bounty. So I do like it, but I think we can save a lot of words by cutting this, because we know from this that he has a stalker and the stalker has goons, and that's really all we need to know. So I think we can cut that out safely, and still, it is more awkward to have the, yeah, so I get what you're doing now. I'll call security and I need now. That's kind of a response to that. I don't know why it's awkward on its own, that it works really well by itself. I mean, it works really well in that paragraph. Like, I really liked it with that extra stuff. I don't know why it feels strange by itself, but when I do that, I don't love it. But anyways, but yeah, so this helps to me because her, let's see, actually, you know what? I think that this would make a little more sense to me, at least earlier. What? Oh, okay. It was just weird. So let's see if I like that. So she points her pinch to the door. It squeaks open, followed by clicking leather boots. 0. This could get ugly, miss. The miss stares wide. Oh, I guess there we go. Actually, I like that. This could get ugly, miss. I'll call security, and I need now. Don't bother. I guess you could do. Does that work? So it squeaks open, followed by chain clicking leather boots. 0. This could get ugly, miss. I'll call security, and I need now. Don't bother. I don't know. I don't know if I like that next to I need now or not. But I like that better with just her immediate response being, hey, I know now there's an intruder, I'll call security. Getting out to the thing about, fearing for your life. 389, pretty good. I guess we can take this out, that we don't need to know that he doesn't know what he's doing, even though it's a fun character thing. Okay. I feel like it should be like that. Can this be like this? Yeah, I think that works. 380. You could say music pinballs against the lobby's walls. I don't love it though. Okay, I can take this out on this one. I could take out the 7 minutes thing. I don't really want to, but I could. Oh, kitty. Guess we could take that out as well. Yeah, that works. I guess I like the chain clicking, but you can just do followed by leather boots, and that does still tell you that it's an intruder. I guess we can take out the sun thing. I kind of like the scene setting though. The info on the scene. It does provide questions though. I don't know if I like the glaring. I don't know if that quite makes sense to me. Because I would feel like she'd be more confused, and I guess it does kind of work that it's like he is causing so much trouble, and now he gets what he wants. You know, I guess is the like, ugh. But it seems more like, you know, the who Nick. It doesn't seem like a glare thing. It seems more like a, are you serious? So I think we can take that out. Oh, we can. I guess you could take out, you know, she says Miss Wells a lot, so I guess you could say, well, we do need to know that. No, I kind of like that actually. Just doing. Hi, hello. Oh, she paused. Who? Nick? But Miss Wells. You know, that we get the reveal that it's Miss Wells a little late. So that kind of works. And she called him by the right name at the end. That's fun. Okay, so we got 9 words left. We are in the home stretch. I guess you could say I. Doesn't take a word out, but it's a little flows a little better. I guess you do need to say now. I mean, not need to, but it's helpful. I guess we don't need to know that the elevator is on the left of her desk. So we could just do the elevator. So where? I don't know if I love that, though. Let me think. Oh, it was less words. And got us to 350. Or I guess goal would be better, maybe. It's a little clunky, but I think it gets the job done. Let's read it again. See if it flows okay. It's been a week since I regenerated my arm with that damn lunar energy. I want to use that power now, but I gotta ration it. I'm in Reno during business hours on a Tuesday, and people suck. Is that... I think that comma shouldn't be there. I'm not quite sure, though. I'm in Reno during business hours on a Tuesday, and people suck. Music bounces against the lobby's walls like a pinball machine. A business card crumbles to my grip as the receptionist explains that Penelope Wells is booked until next month. I don't have until next month. I have 7 minutes, and they aren't in heaven. I look to my goal, the elevator. I could portal into Nell's office, but my liver might pop out and ruin her carpet. I'm an old friend. She'll clear her schedule. Sure. Nick, was it? Her voice reminds me of Minnie Mouse. I hate Minnie Mouse. Nicholas. She rolls her eyes. Right, Nick. We're all old friends of Penelope Wells. We're also her sister, her dentist, and her estranged uncle. But... She points her pen towards the door. It squeaks open, followed by leather boots. 0. This could get ugly, miss. I'll call security! And I need Nell. Don't bother. The hairs on my neck bristle. A knuckle sandwich wants to collide with me, but I'm faster. I face him, catch his wrist, and direct momentum to the floor. One of my stalker's goons. Katy Perry sings about cherry chapstick as I take a deep breath. Maybe if I concentrate on my gut, the moon will be more forgiving. I tap into that source, focusing it onto the carpet. I know it's working because my gut writhes. A ring of silver rips through the carpet. That silver wormhole will take this chump somewhere on this plane. Maybe Hawaii, maybe Pluto. I toss the goon in and close the gap before my stomach turns itself inside out. The phone rings. On the third ring, the receptionist answers. Hi, hello? Oh, she pauses. Who, Nick? But Miss Wells. The receptionist nods and hangs up. Miss Wells will see you on the 3rd floor, Nicholas. I approach the elevator and press the button with my elbow. Most satisfying ding chimes. I'm happy with that. I hope Documancer's happy with that, but I think that really still gets across most of the story that as it was, just with some of the embellishments, while lovely, removed, and still keeps that much needed context. Also, something I didn't do, but something you could do is, I think I might have taken out the lines where it was, but the miss was a little bit awkward to me. And so something you can do instead of calling her the miss, so that you don't have to use the characters of the receptionist, is you could say Minnie. that even though her name is not Minnie, we know that he referred to her as Minnie Mouse, and so it would make sense for that to be the nickname that he would call her. Granted, names are important to him, so that might not work with his character, but you could just be like, Minnie tries to press something on her desk, it is like a nickname that would be, from her voice. That would be a lot more natural to me personally, and would feel very, keep in line with your character, very strong character voice. But anyways, yeah, I did not expect to be doing a story surgery today. I don't know if this is within the proper character limit. If Deathset is still here, maybe he can check for me. But it is in the word limit at the very least. And so I hope this was fun. This was a very strange encore only stream. You could heck it if you like. I assume you mean check it. Copy. Can I post it to... I have reached the character limit of 500. Okay, let's go over to the stream chat. Yeah, there you go. But yeah, so let me know. So does that mean it worked then? 6 to spare! Yay! I did it! I do plan to tag Documancer, but I love the idea of Documancer waking up, not thinking that they are being read on the stream, and then heading over to the stream chat and being like, that looks like my story. Why is my story over there? But yes, it has been fun. I don't have a new prompt to announce because I already announced it in part 1. If you didn't catch that, go catch it in part 1. It's a special prompt that you'll want that explanation for. But it has been a good time, a good stream. I hope that you have enjoyed it despite the weirdness. And I hope everyone who watches the VOD enjoys it as well. Again, feel free to leave comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But yeah, do you have somebody for me to raid? I'm glad to hear it's been fun. Current plan is to write for Loving Eldritch Parents. Nice, going for number 1. That will be fun to see which prompts people choose. If they choose stuff like that, go for the prompt 1. If it's more sporadic and random or what. Nice. Where the Blobber is live with Pokemon. Beware the Blobber. But yes, so glad to hear it's been fun. I will see you guys next time. There was a Dracula chapter that got posted today. Hopefully I will get to read that tomorrow, but as usual, no guarantees. But that is my plan for the next thing I'll be streaming. So yeah, I hope you all sleep well, if it is sleepy time for you as well. And have a good night. Bye-bye.